hung up in the wind a little bit. Here's Worthy, makes the first man miss. Straight ahead past the 40. Kicker to beat. There he goes. Worthy making a house call on a punt return. Xavier Worthy with a 75-yard return for a touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Rattler on 3rd and 8. Furman brings pressure, hit as he throws. Jump ball! What a catch! Xavier Legette. He is him.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
As this is Sione Vaki on the direct snap, and Vaki around the outside. There he goes down the sideline. Sione Vaki, touchdown Utah.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Slover, center pressure, ducks away. Sends it downfield. It's in the hands of Roberts, and he's loose. Chase Roberts being chased, but nobody's going to catch him. Touchdown, Cougars.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Missouri still trying to get set from the end zone. Cook throws one. It's intercepted. House call for Major Burns. And LSU is going to escape Columbia with a win.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Coach Sonny Dykes looking for answers to DJ Giddens. No response here. Giddens to the house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon on 365 Sports. I wore this beautiful golf shirt, Augusta National and Masters wrapping up. Scotty Scheffler won the tournament. We'll get to that. We'll have a couple of different guests, including Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys, and the career of the great Verne Lundquist, and also Ryan Andrade will join us. Andrade, will join us from RotoWire on it, and basketball. But since I won the overall Masters Pick'em, I did not.
Rob did.
Again. Rob Bolton again. We all four of us, Emery, Craig, Paul, and also me, we had somebody who missed the cut. It's a very, very brutal, the conditions of winning that. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. Hope you've had a great day. Now, tomorrow, Craig, Paul, is the wonderful start of what is the never-ending transfer portal reopening. And we're going to have a couple of nuggets on that in a minute.
This is the Smokestack, brought to you by SeatGeek. For the best deals on tickets, click the link in the description. Now, let's get to the rundown.
All right, here we go. The transfer portal again tomorrow opens up. This is from part of a Max Olson column, but also Jana Bardal, who's a new member of theathletic.com. She'll join us tomorrow. Of the 2,303 FBS scholarship players who entered the portal last cycle, roughly 300 were repeat transfers. More than 400 multi-time FBS transfers have entered the portal in the current cycle, and that's even before it officially opens.
That's going to be the new normal, is teams, having guys that have been to 3 places, maybe even 4. It's difficult to get to 4 because you only have 5 years of eligibility, especially now with COVID years will start ending here soon. So it'll be difficult to get to 4, but people will do it. And I'm not sure if I want a person who's been at 4. I'm not nuts about people who've necessarily been to 3, but that's just, you're going to have to get used to that. And it's hopefully they find a place that is mutually beneficial for both sides.
Yeah, I mean, here we are, and it's another go-around, and I think that we're expecting to see chaos based on all the media guys who have been, posting about it. It's chaos. Prepare yourselves for this next wave of the transfer portal. And there's been all the doomsday or the warnings of how nuts this is going to be, this go-round in particular. So I don't know if that's just hype or I don't think it's just hype. I think it's just a matter of, like, how much it's been hyped up. Like, what are we going to see once this opens up starting tomorrow? Because now the expectations are like we're going to see some big-time fish out in that ocean of the transfer portal. So I'm very curious of who all jumps in and what that changes for schools around the country and, what kind of chaos we are looking at. So, yeah, we've been warned, and now we're going to see for real what all that warning was about when it comes to who's going to be jumping in there.
Garrett, we'll go to the other part of it. Not now. We'll go to the Chris Hummer list a little bit later on after we go through the rest of whatever is today's sports news, including Samuel Brown. Remember, Matthew Golden transferred to UT after entering the portal. Samuel Brown, 62 catches, 800-plus yards, 3 touchdowns expected, according to Aaron Wilson, who covers the NFL, to enter the NCAA transfer portal. This could get to a point where we could go on for probably minutes upon minutes upon minutes. Today, somewhat quiet with more will enter. Tomorrow, of course, the floodgates open, and we'll know more about actually who is a part of the new transfer portal window. Troy Dannon, Nebraska AD. We'll have Matt Rhule on in about an hour, their football coach. Look at these quotes. There's going to be some meritocracy versus more of a social approach to revenue distribution. You'll eventually see that within leagues, you'll eventually see that across sports, maybe other than football, and eat what you kill. In some respects, that mentality. It's going to be much more performance-based and outcomes when it comes to generating revenue necessary to compete. The college football playoff decisions have been made so far show that. Not breaking news, but yet another AD mentioning that.
No, I do think it is interesting to note, especially given what's going on with the ACC, where, tiered revenue distribution is a big thing for them if they were to stay together going forward, which appears less and less likely by the second because Florida State and Clemson both want out. And so let's just say Florida State and Clemson get into, one of these Super 2 trademark Craig Smoak leagues, and those leagues then, they're, have a new organization, some sort of super league, whatever happens. Well, that super league is probably going to have to be determined on who gets the most ratings and who gets the most money, and kind of an ever shifting revenue flow year to year. It may be an incentive type thing for the programs, but that's what all this is all about, is who gets the most money and who feels they deserve the most money, rightfully or wrongfully.
Wow, imagine that, actually doing it based on performance and not just what league you're in. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to go. I think to eat what you kill is a good way to do things. Now, there's going to be a longer road to hoe for some schools that don't have all the built-in advantages of some of the other ones. So, I don't know, though, that that's any different than the way they've been operating for the most part. I think this is, the changing of the old ways to the new ways, and the new ways are still somewhat, blurry. We can't see the future 2020 just yet, but we're starting to see it come more into focus, and certainly you make money based on what you do has become a recurring theme throughout the leagues, throughout just the overall conversation about the future. Very vague still, but I think that is the way to go. I mean, why would we not want you to get what you get based on what you did, not what league you got assigned to in 1910 or, whatever you happen to latch on to. So, yeah, if the school goes and has major success, they should be rewarded for it. There's got to still be some little carryover so that there is still some food supplied at the bottom of the chain for whoever's in your league. So how all that works out, I don't know moving forward, but I definitely think there's been a lot of signs that this is the way forward. And, I'm just, I guess, interested like everybody else to see what exactly that looks like in the long run.
All right, so Jacoby Walter, Baylor. Not surprisingly, Eve Missy last week when it was during the time when Scott Drew was looking at Kentucky and also staying at Baylor, which we know the answer to that. Paul was all over that Thursday and Friday. Jacoby Walter, he is someone that I saw Trey Young, who obviously knows a little bit about the NBA and basketball, saying that this young man's like a cold-blooded killer when it comes to shooting. At times flashed that at Baylor. At times, maybe you wondered where he was One of the things I know about this young man is he's incredibly good. Like, seemed like salt to the earth good when it comes to who he is and how he has gone about business. Even Scott Drew tearing up after the loss in the second round of the tournament about how the one and done, he was not that type of an attitude where he seemed like he was all in it for a long time.
Well, there is an interesting thing at the end of this, Smoky. You see, he says, I have decided to declare for the 2024 NBA draft. I'm wondering if he is, in fact, hiring an agent or if he's made that decision yet. If he hires an agent, then he is not coming back. If he doesn't hire an agent,
if he doesn't get like good numbers or good feedback from the NBA, in other words.
Well, then that would be fantastic news for Baylor with the guys they've got coming in. But we'll see. I think he's going to get good feedback, and then he'll hire an agent probably straight away. But Yves Missi said last week that he was definitely hiring an agent. So we know what his plan is he's going to go. And look, he might have just left that part out. It would shock me if he came back to college basketball.
Yeah, and why would Trae Young know something about Jacoby Walter? Well, because Jacoby Walter played on his summer team.
Yep.
So there you go. He played on Team Trae Young. And I hate to stop things down here, but we were gone for a few days, so we haven't commented on Scott Drew staying. So
I'm kidding. Go ahead. Yeah, well, you and I were out of pocket. You're right. With Jennifer
we haven't
Daniels
been here.
wedding. Yep.
We haven't been here for a couple shows, so we missed all of the hoopla. And we were both right in the end. We both expected Scott Drew to stay. He stayed. And I'm thrilled that he did. I happened to drive past a different way, past Foster Pavilion on my way here, and just, kind of hit different because that's the place he helped build and the place that he's going to continue to help build. And there's a lot of construction going on there. What are they going to do with Robinson Tower, by the way? Any idea, guys?
I haven't heard that they're going to tear it down.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's like right in front of the building. I just wondered if y'all had heard anything or not. Okay. So, but anyways, that's the way I had driven across.
What it would be good to do is knock it down and create more parking.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
But,
yeah. So they're building that parking garage over there, but I was wondering if there's any plans that I hadn't heard about yet. But yeah, I'm thrilled that Scott Drew's staying. He's going to keep a very good recruiting class together, and obviously a program that's got a lot going for it. Will have their head man in charge. Kentucky seems thrilled with where they landed. Hate that for BYU, obviously. Mark Pope, the trickle-down effect ended up still hitting a team in the Big 12. But I know that people here are thrilled, and I'm excited to see Scott Drew continue to build on what he's helped create here in Waco.
I'm happy. We all felt he would stay. That was Kentucky, though, and so you never know. But I thought and we're going to have a note here in a minute on Kentucky with Mark Pope coming in from BYU, which Paul covered on Friday. I'm thrilled he's staying. He's a program builder initially, but he's also been a sustainable coach at Baylor and has found ways like a chameleon to build this team or build the roster in different ways, including what he's got coming in and also those he might bring in from the portal.
Especially amazing considering he was reported to have taken the Kentucky job by like multiple places, which turned out to not be the case whatsoever.
Fraud Central.
It's just, man, there's some shoddy reporting going on out there, and these days just in general where you throw something and hope that it sticks so that you can say, I was right. And if you don't, you delete it or you just pretend like you didn't put it out there. Because, yeah, I saw Scott Drew's, this and Scott Drew's that, and Scott Drew's still in Waco. So good for the Bears. Sorry for the Cougars, like I said. So we'll see how that ends up for them. But I could tell Mark Pope became a fan favorite very quickly. They went from sour on that choice to like he could do no harm after walking off the bus with the national championship team and the trophy and just the family and the old jerseys. I mean, he hit on every Kentucky nostalgia sweet spot note. So I think he's already getting A+ across the board, and they've forgotten about Scott Drew anyways.
Here's the thing that Kentucky did is that they were like so driven on, we got to get this resume, we got to get this resume, we got to get this resume, you have to have this national title. Well, everybody who's won a national title at some point in their career hasn't won a national title. Like like nobody was born under the earth with already a ring, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody has that. So you have to get to that point. Also, I think part of it is SEC snobbery and Kentucky snobbery where you don't look at the facts of the case. Look, outside of Mark Pope being on the 96, Wildcat championship team and playing for Rick Pitino, he took over a BYU team, brought them into the most difficult night-in, night-out conference in the country, and was picked 13th, beat Kansas in Lawrence, beat Baylor, beat many other tournament teams throughout the year, and got into the NCAA tournament. That's no small feat, and he did that with a team that was rebuilding. All he has to do at Kentucky, now granted you have to rebuild your roster every year, and Kentucky's had a wave of guys in the portal already, but it's still Kentucky. He's got to get them one more weekend, and that's progress at Kentucky, which has many more resources for basketball than BYU does currently. So, again, I think maybe they kind of looked at the actual resume and went like, oh, well, this makes sense. I get it now, And the other thing, I think people need to realize this. When the discourse happens of Jay Wright told him no, Danny Hurley told them no, Billy Donovan told them no, well, the only person who actually got an offer was Scott Drew. So the only person who told them no was Scott Drew. Now, the other ones might have declined to interview through the agent, but that doesn't mean they told him no, because Mitch Barnhart might have gotten down the road with any one of those guys and gone, well, this isn't a right fit either. So that's the other part of the reporting I think that gets erroneous, because how many people actually said no?
Yeah, and I will say it's semantics, but there will be Kentucky people that will tell you till they're blue in the face, Scott Drew never got an offer, because, there's that pride thing of well, we didn't get turned down.
Right.
He didn't officially get offered. Well, yeah, you don't officially get offered until you basically let it be known you're taking the job. And so that's the whole trick with the coaching staffs. That's how your AD always says, this is the only guy we offered the job, even though there's 6 people that turned it down. And so, yeah, Scott Drew's in that camp. But good for Kentucky. And, again, we'll see where BYU lands.
Garrett, I just sent you an email, if you don't mind looking at it, to have for the next story. Rick Pitino knows a lot about Kentucky basketball. This is from Pitino earlier today after he said he saw the Pope press conference to the former captain. Not shocked, but pleasantly surprised. Would expect nothing less from Coach Mark Pope. Also, St. John's basketball accepts this year at UK, next year at the Mecca, and also looking forward to saying goodbye to Kentucky men's basketball. If you didn't see the video, we can't play the video. They came into, Rupp Arena on a bus, a team bus, with a lot of former players of that team and Kentucky greats, and then Mark Pope with that national championship plaque that they won back in the mid-'90s. It was really cool. Very, very cool. So good luck to Mark Pope moving forward at Kentucky. Now, we mentioned the transfer portal, the men's basketball transfer portal. Of course, that also was going on. Texas has picked up a name or two. But today, Dylan Mitchell, very excitable player, a guy that at times you wondered if he was consistent enough, and yet again with guys like Disu and also Asmus and others around him, there's a lot of guys who wanted the ball, a lot of guys who wanted to score, but he's at least entered the portal. Strong, forward from Texas, so there we are with that. Dylan Mitchell is now available for now.
Yeah, I think he's going to go. I think he's probably going to. Well, I mean, Austin can always do that, but I think that Texas and Rodney Terry needs to find. He had stars, and he still will have some, but they needed maybe a second level of worker bees that were kind of in the middle a little bit more, or some. He needs some culture guys.
You mean the guys that weren't knocking people?
Yeah, and
on the baseline and getting ejected
and so
flagrant fouls.
That's the problem. Is that they had their fan sold that Brock Cunningham is not a bad culture guy. Look, if you're getting kicked out of games repeatedly, you're a bad culture guy. It's not good for your team. Like, one of them, yes, was in a blowout of Texas Tech. So if you're a Texas fan, you'd be like, well, he was just sending a message to the rest of the league. Well, then he continued after that to send it and send it and send it again and stop down games. They're like, was this another flagrant, or was he just being reckless? They've got to get that out, and they've got to move ahead. Now, Rodney Terry also has a problem where he has to turn down his rabbit ears. So if Dylan Mitchell goes somewhere else, wouldn't be surprised, and I would not be surprised if that place is Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any insight on where he might land. That sounds, like it would be a good spot. I don't know all his connections and backgrounds, but obviously a really highly rated guy and a guy with a big time skill set. Averaged A little over 9 points and 7 boards, I think I saw in this past year. So I think there's definitely, with the expectations that he had, some more juice to squeeze. And we'll see if that's in Fayetteville or wherever else it might be. But I think with what Texas is doing, I doubt he's probably coming back. And I don't know what the percentages are of all the numbers and things that people spit out when it comes to college sports these days. I wonder what the retention rate is of guys who go into the portal. We hear about the percentages of all the people that enter and all that, but what are the averages of those who enter and then decide we're going to come back? I don't think it's a very high number. So yeah, I'd imagine Dylan Mitchell's on his way somewhere else. Great athlete. So we'll see. Somebody will definitely be intrigued by him.
All right. So Scotty Scheffler won his second green jacket. Rahm last year, Scheffler the year before. He shot 4 under in the back nine and a spectacular closing to the front nine with a shot that ended up about a foot away for an easy tap-in birdie on a very, very dangerous, dicey slope on number 9. He wins it, and we're going to hear from a couple of different analysts on that, including, as Paul mentioned earlier, Andrade is going to join us from RotoWire at 5:30. So, Verne Lundquist, last time that he was going to be at the Masters, they celebrated him throughout the week. He's the one that had the call when Nicklaus came from behind in 1986, and it was maybe yes sir when he had the birdie a putt late in the back nine. Then of course the Tiger chip in an 05. That have you ever seen anything like this in your life? That chip in with winning his what was the time his 4th major championship. So now this is a quote. I thought this summarized Verne Lundquist about as well as anybody can. Sometimes in broadcasting, especially with the new age, there's a lot of wanting to do things that gets attention during a call. Less is more, and we all have to learn that a lot. One of the best never made himself the story, I'll miss him. That was just a golf fan on the retirement of Verne Lundquist after 40 years at Augusta National.
Yeah, it was true. And look, he was one of my favorite football announcers too. Everything that Verne Lundquist did, I loved. He was fantastic, and even he will always be my voice of the Masters, even though I've been listening to Jim Nantz do it for so long. Verne Lundquist, because he's the one in my mind of when I first watched the Masters, that's the voice of the Masters to me. That is.
You know what's amazing about you saying that is because he doesn't get a chance. If you look over a 4 to 5, 6 hour broadcast, he's on for just a little bit of time because he's only on a certain hole.
Yeah, he's on. Is he on Amen Corner? Is that where he is?
He was on the 16 tower, and sometimes would look around at other particular holes that he could see from the tower.
Yeah.
Right above the par 3 16th.
But to me, he's the voice of the Masters,
yeah.
And part of the reason is that he's the voice of the back. He's kind of the voice of the back nine, right? So when the Masters starts getting heavy on Sunday, those holes are usually the Verne Lundquist holes.
Yep.
So when you hear, those big moments, the Tiger moments and all that, it's Verne Lundquist who was just so good at his job every which way but loose. And I'm going to miss hearing his voice at all on the Masters. That's gonna bum me out.
Tiger shook his hand after he finished out 16. Not a
was
good
that
weekend.
That's the picture behind the tree, right?
Yeah, no, there's actually a better one from a different angle.
Yeah, but the meme that's going around, it looks like Tiger shaking a tree's hand.
Yeah, it was Lundquist who, of course, was broken up, emotional, and it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I don't have any golf memories per se because I'm not a big golf fan like you guys are, but I definitely recall hearing him on various calls over the years. I think of him as like SEC football as much as anything.
Absolutely.
And I know he had the big goodbye with CBS this past season that I think we talked about at the time. So, yeah, it's a legendary voice that's calling it a career, and hats off to him. Now, I do have a question because I didn't watch it, but was it true that they kind of botched the end there? Like they had the music a little bit too loud for his send-off? Is that true? I saw a comment about that, but I like I said, I didn't see it. So if so, that's unfortunate. I'm sure they can clean it up in post, production. So when it's played again, it's kind of like the Super Bowl halftime show of where they fixed Alicia Keys' voice. Mm-hmm. Like they'll change it to where you can hear him more. But beyond that, he had an awesome career, obviously. I'll remember him calling Johnny Football his name and all these other great memories and certainly some golf memories as well.
Again, when you're covering something that's on TV. It's not a radio broadcast, so you don't have to describe everything. Everyone sees what's going on, and there are some guys that do broadcast of football, whatever, that are overmodulated, and you don't have to sit there and say it's a pass. Everyone sees it's a pass or a run up the middle, and Lundquist was as good as anyone who's ever done it at being less is more, not saying here comes the putt, it's down the hill. He just let it play out with a very, very small amount of lingo at all along the way with Nicholas Woods and so many others he called on number 16 and elsewhere around the course.
Yeah, that's something that young broadcasters, young play-by-play guys eventually learn. Some of them are quicker than others, but yeah, when you're just inclined to feel like you have to describe every single thing that's going on. He's turning left. He's going right. He's like, and it's like, no, you just got to let it, especially on TV. Like radio is one thing, but TV, just let the action do the talking for the most part. And he was very good about, knowing when that was and when that wasn't and when he needed to pop on and add to the atmosphere. And he certainly did on many occasions. So, yeah, I know that was a bittersweet day for a lot of golf fans and also, SEC fans as that career comes winding down.
Absolutely.
He was as good at anything. Like, I put him up there with Vince Scully as like one of the guys who was just so good at storytelling no matter what. Like, Vin was on radio and television, and you wouldn't know, like, each broadcast was kind of the same. Like, I remember – watching a TV Dodgers game one time and listening to Vin Scully, but I was like walking around the house and not listening, and I was still seeing it. Verne Lundquist on the Masters is the same thing. Like, you could walk out of the room if you turn the volume up on the TV, and you would be like, okay, I can see, David Duvall right here about to chip in. I can hear him saying that, and then I can hear him letting, of course, and the Masters is the best one for this. They have the mics and everything. The sound is so good, the ambient sound around it, and hearing the quiet almost of what Augusta National is. He was so good at, okay, I can feel the crowd around me and this emotion, and here's the couple things I'm going to throw in there so that you have context to know what's going on. But the photography here is so beautiful, and the audio is so great. I want you to feel like you're here, and I'm just saying, by the way, this is for the lead on the 16th hole. And then just so you know.
Let the crowd, the murmur in the background, the roars, etc., along the way. All right, so that's pretty much set for today. There's a coach and a former Alabama player who passed away that had connections to more than one of the Big 12 programs. We'll have that for you here in the next segment. Here is Rob Bolton's final tweet on our Masters picks. It just includes his team, as it should. Scheffler, Lowry, Fitzpatrick, and Joaquin Niemann. Everybody else, all the other players, all of us had somebody who missed the cut in our Masters picks, and somebody, I think, responded to Rob, about, man, that's so penal of a system that if you have one player miss the cut and have guys who finish first, second, and third, but that's just the way we do it. We wanted to do it different than maybe everybody else.
It's a challenge. And most of the time, two of us get through to the weekend. But the wind was, it's the wind.
Greens were hard. The wind was up.
The wind on Friday, I saw a couple different people take cell phone video like before they turned their phone in as they were walking into the tournament of just grass on the this is in the parking lot.
Like in a wheat field in Kansas.
Yeah, like you see it just going. Yeah, it was wild.
All right, so Craig had Sam Burns who missed the cut. Emery had Jordan Spieth, who played awful, missed the cut.
I had Jordan Spieth.
Oh, I had your teams backwards.
How about the fact that in Jordan Spieth's absence these last few years, thankfully for Longhorn fans, Scotty Scheffler's just like, I'll take that ball and run with it. Spieth's kind of faded since his big Masters moment. Still, has had some other moments, but for the most part, it's Scheffler's kind of taking that Longhorn golf ball and just taking it a greater distance and has a much greater distance he can still go with.
Crenshaw, Texas, obviously you mentioned others, and there he is too. Emery had, I believe it was Victor Hovland, who has really, we mentioned this when Rob joined us last week. He's a head case right now with his swing. And then I had both Wyndham Clark, the reigning U.S. Open champion, and British Open champion Brian Harman. Neither one of them made the cut. So congratulations to Rob Bolton. He is now starting to put together a run like Scheffler is with our Masters picks. We'll do it again for the PGA Championship next month.
Yeah, and this time I will know that the LIV guys aren't in the golf rankings I was looking at. So I can actually pick those guys because that's how much of a not really knowing what I'm doing kind of guy I am, that you told me that after the fact. I was like, oh, okay. So I just left out Bryson DeChambeau and a number of other guys.
I did. We all left him, but even those who knew he was eligible, we still – and he, of course, had a hell of a start, still finished inside the top 10.
So, but at least I'll know that now going in, so maybe we can make it a little bit more competitive for Rob. But, yeah, he's on a good run right now.
So if you look at the top 5, all of them PGA Tour, but then 6, tied for 6, Cameron Smith and DeChambeau were from LIV. Let's see. Terrell Hatton, who had a huge round when he was playing with Tiger on Saturday, was inside the top 10. So there were Patrick Reed, who always plays that course well. He was right outside the top 10 among some others. So they had a nice little showing, but just not right there inside the top 5 or 6. When we come back, what are some of the biggest storylines when it comes to the transfer portal for FBS college football starting tomorrow? Chris Hummer from CBS Sports built a top 10 list. We'll have that for you with some of what he said. We are glad to be here with you today on 365 Sports. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, Garrett Ross, all helping do what they do to run this big mothership on 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. What does used to be mean? As you get older, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. The one that gets most, if not all, the attention is what happens when you have ED or your sex drive just disappears or it's not the same. PettyClinicLowT.com also knows there's other symptoms. Symptoms like, for example, your energy is not the same. You're lethargic. Your focus is not the same. And then you don't sleep the same either. A lot of that can be contributed to low T, low testosterone. Go to PettyClinicLowT.com. Email, phone number, top left-hand corner, and tell them that you might be a candidate, or at least you want to know if you're a candidate for having your testosterone levels boosted. PettyClinicLowT.com will set you up with blood work. They will take care of it. They'll tell you where to go to the clinic or where you go to give your blood or get your blood drawn. Get the results and get back in touch with you either way, whether you're fine or you need a little boost at PettyClinicLowT.com.
It's Dodge Power Shot Days at Allen Samuels in Waco, where the thrill of the drive meets unbeatable savings. Feel the adrenaline as you conquer the road in a 2023 Dodge Durango RT, now with a jaw-dropping $12,500 off. Or unleash the power of the 2023 Dodge Charger Challenger RT, now available with remarkable $11,000 off. Feel the rush of pure performance and style as you dominate the urban jungle. Don't miss your chance to experience the thrill of Dodge Power Shot Days. Hurry in and claim these incredible savings before they're gone. Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, we have another sponsor. We'll do that in a minute to introduce you. In fact, let's do it now since we were talking golf. And we have a note about Steve Sloan, the former Alabama player who's been at, as I mentioned, more than one school, attached to at least one school in the Big 12, especially one of the incoming schools. Clawmax Golf Clubs. Paul has got some golf businesses that have attached themselves to our show, and we just mentioned the Masters, and we don't discuss golf every single day. We do during the majors and then some other stories, but this golf club, it fits me perfectly. They sent me 3 different golf clubs, Caddy Daddy. This is almost, if you look at it, like one of the gloves that you see a college or pro receiver wearing. I mean, it is like, seriously, like I could climb the side of a building like Spider-Man. They're incredible, fits very tug, very durable. I'm going to play, I think, Thursday, I hope to, and I'll be able to, show these to my guys that in the golf group we have at Bear Ridge. And we appreciate them, Caddy Daddy, for being a part of what we do. More on them in just a little bit. Thank you.
I'll put.
What are they, about $25, $30 a piece?
Yeah, there's 20. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. You said the thing. It's like $24.99, $30. Like there's code. Like I'm gonna put a code in there so you can go and look at it. But they are.
I mean, it's very, very, very nice, sticky, and it's perfect for golf. You could put a baseball glove around one of these too if you wanted to, not to mention catch some passes.
Oh, I thought you were about to do an OJ tribute since he passed last week while we were gone. Yeah, no, that actually fits. It doesn't fit. That actually does fit. Yeah, that actually does fit. It wasn't put in the fridge beforehand or whatever the conspiracies were. But yeah, no, those are nice. I just felt the palm side of that, and it does not like a lot of tech, but enough to keep you having a good grip, kind of like you're referring to with a receiver's glove or something like that. Yeah, they look nice.
Yeah, I feel like Michael Jackson up here with the glove on. Steve Sloan. He played college football at Alabama, played in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons, Alabama back in the early 60s. He was a quarterback, and he was a part of, as a coach, he coached at Alabama, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt. He was at Texas Tech in the mid-'70s, Ole Miss, Duke, and then Vanderbilt before retired back in 1990. But also, and I saw Mark Daniels put this up on his Twitter feed, very important for about a decade with UCF as an administrative assistant AD. And so Steve Sloan passed away. And that note came out. He passed away on Sunday. He was 79 years old. Now, the college football transfer portal reopens tomorrow. We mentioned that. Chris Hummer put out a list, and we'll go through them a little bit by little bit with both Craig and Paul dialogue on this as well. The team that could define the transfer portal. He says Alabama. One, they had a lot of players move on, and some of them, as we've been told, were going to move on anyway. The Nick Saban retirement, some spread out throughout the country. Some went to other schools that are a part of the national championship picture. But this now, with they finishing up spring football, they could be the one, depending on how, I guess, locked in they get, vice versa, define what the cycle might look like. Because if they want you, that's going to be hard to turn them down.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be, I think Alabama defining the cycle is going to be very interesting because it'll show what kind of juice Kalen DeBoer has already, what kind of juice the program still has. I mean, Nick Saban still has an office in the building, so even though he's not going to be coaching there, he's still going to be around. So that's going to be interesting. Washington does have a lot to do. But
we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah.
But I definitely do think that they will have some ability to call up those guys who are in the portal and be like, I know you've looked at these other places, but Alabama?
Yeah. Even with Proctor coming in from Iowa, they still need offensive line, multiple players, he said. Alabama needs a tight end, another receiver, and might even need some movement within the quarterback room, even though they, of course, have Jalen Milroe coming back.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up UCF a second ago in regards to our newest that was the following. There was the note on
Steve Sloan.
Yeah, Steve Sloan. I was going to say in the transfer portal, I just saw Mikey Keene, quarterback, UCF, has entered the transfer portal. It's not the biggest splash.
Well, he was at Fresno State last year.
That's right.
Timmy McClain.
I'm thinking of Tim. Yeah,
Timmy
okay.
McClain. Yeah.
So that's one note passing along that I just saw come down. Is it seems like a plethora of those starting to emerge now. But yeah, I mean, Alabama makes sense. They're the biggest of the big dogs. They've got a new coach, so there's a lot of movement going on right now, and he's going to want to put his own fingerprints on that. And they are always a team that has to replace a lot of talent, even if there isn't a coaching shakeup because of the NFL draft.
Absolutely.
So I just think that they're facing an influx roster more than they've experienced in quite a while, because you add on the typical attrition and then you tack on having a new coach and what that brings. So, yeah, I would expect Alabama is really looking to retool that roster or reload it, but also set up for this new era and Kalen DeBoer as best as they possibly can, because they don't want to slip, and the expectations are as high for them as anybody. But, I'd imagine they're going to be very involved over these next few days and weeks.
Was anyone hurt more than Washington? Alabama had some departures. Everybody's going to have some. Washington added 15 players during the winter window of the portal, including Will Rogers from Mississippi State, but they have 22 starters that pretty much obliterated their first team on both offense and defense. So they returned 3 starters this spring, all on defense. That amazing, dynamic, do whatever they usually wanted until they got in the championship game. Offense will have a lot to fix. 15 players added, but they will jetfish very aggressive when it comes to the portal.
It's going to have to be. Well, look, they were going to get killed by graduation no matter what. Like that was going to happen to them, and they were going to get killed by the draft no matter what, because when you have 3 guys who are going to get picked in the top 60 picks at wide receiver alone, that's gonna decimate your roster. Not to mention 2 offensive linemen in the top 60, maybe 3, a defensive end in the top 60, a defensive back in the top 60. So they're going to have a lot of really early picks in the draft. The quarterback, of course, and Michael Penix, who will be up there. So, they're going to have a lot of rebuilding to do, or they're just going to have to go through with a young team and jetfish. But most people don't do that anymore.
Watch the draft. You'll see why Washington has the most work to do of any top 25 team. You're going to see a boatload of guys from the purple and gold with the great run that they had. Roma Dunze, can't wait to see where he lands, him in particular. I don't know. I like the guy a lot and just really fell for watching him play the past couple of years. I'm excited about that. But certainly they had a great run, but with great runs typically come a lot of attrition, unless you just happen to hit it right when everybody's kind of hitting their junior years and you have like a 2-year window. But even that's harder to do nowadays because you don't know who you're going to have. So they had a massively successful season, but a lot of guys heading off to the NFL or the portal, what have you. So Washington's a fascinating case of trying to rebuild and see how effective they can do that in just a few months' time.
Most of the time, other than quarterback, the most in-demand position is you just cannot get enough of what you call the dogs inside on defense, the defensive tackle position. Big bodies. Texas had 2 great tackles, but they also had depth there behind Murphy and Tavondre Sweat. A&M, Texas, among others he brought up. LSU needs some big bodies inside. Baylor, their defensive line has been hurt with attrition, retirement, and or injuries. And so that is one. Even Georgia, as mentioned by Chris in the article, needs defensive tackles, interior defensive linemen. You never have enough, even if you have a lot. So that's a position that needs in most demand. Also, the least in demand. Well, now that pretty much the portal's run its course and already have had the offseason, the quarterback position. Quarterback position, although you might see some teams. Here's part of the notes he mentioned. Other than some schools who need a starter, Northwestern does. Iowa, Texas Tech, Georgia, UCLA looking for possible experience behind who they have is right now number one on their depth chart. But pretty much he thinks this will be a quiet quarterback cycle that will start in the portal tomorrow.
Well, there's going to be some people that jump in, but the way quarterback works is you're at a disadvantage going anywhere if you're not there in the spring.
Yeah.
So you need
unless
those
you're
reps.
Coming off
you
an
have to
energy,
build
even then, yeah.
Yeah, and so they have to get those those reps in, learn the new offense and all that. So I'm sure there'll be some moving around, but I would think most of the quarterback movement will be I lost a job here. I'm not going to be the starter at a school. Maybe I'm going to go be the backup at a place where I can maybe win the national title. So,
yeah, I mean, I just incorrectly I mentioned Mikey Keene. I meant Timmy McClain. So there's a guy who has entered, but I don't know. Yeah, what are going to be his options? I don't think Ohio State's coming calling, and I throw them out there. I know they already made their big transfer move back in December, but I think most of the schools have kind of addressed that at this point. Certainly, if some big names pop in there, that could shake some things up. But I feel like right after the season is when most people kind of went and grabbed their big quarterback. So. We'll see. But there's a lot of springs that have already ended, guys. Like, it's not just everybody's on the same timeline. So there were spring games this past weekend. There were some the weekend before. So there's been a lot of springs that have already ended. And yeah, I just think it's interesting though to see quarterback as the least in demand. But I guess it's so easy to go and grab a guy when you don't have one now that if all the top guys get taken pretty quick, and that leaves the guys who weren't the top guys to begin with. And so how much of a demand is there for them? So yeah, I'm interested to see what a market looks like for Arkansas. Jacoby Criswell enters. Like, what's the market for guys like that, and Timmy McClain and so forth. But I'm curious if there's a big fish that we just don't know about.
Absolutely, that's the one thing that could maybe change that topic at that position.
And it's not going to be Arch Manning.
No,
I know that it's not going to be him. But is there another guy who we're not thinking of that was a big time recruit?
Or was told recently that they're not going to be the number one guy.
Right.
Yeah.
That decides to jump in starting tomorrow. That's what could shake things up there.
Who could jumpstart the quarterback market? Michigan.
There you go.
There we are with that. That might be one that maybe they nibble with somebody else somewhere else, and maybe that jumpstarts a little bit of a domino effect. But right now with McCarthy getting a lot of rave reviews on how fast he might go in the NFL draft, because one, quarterbacks always go higher than most of the time, you think. But there they are with Michigan and the quarterback market. They could give that thing a jolt of lightning. Position with most of the bigger names, running back. People love skill position anyway. You have, by the way, Damian Martinez in the portal. That by himself. Quinshawn Junkins, of course, already gone. And Mississippi trying to maybe look at, okay, what are we going to do there? Even if they have running backs, they still might want more. But the Damian Martinez is one that will jumpstart the names. Ole Miss and Miami still looking, no matter what, to add maybe an upper echelon running back name, according to Chris Hummer from CBS Sports.
Well, Damian Martinez is there, and his phone probably has not stopped ringing since he said he was going to enter the portal by any team that needs a running back. And that's a position that's more valuable in college right now than it is in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I think the NFL is wrong about it, I think they need to kind of adjust what they look for a little bit more. I think sometimes you get a little tunnel vision.
Kansas City just won without a good name. But they have a guy named Patrick Mahomes.
But they also have Pacheco, who's who could run the offense through him very easily.
Yeah, he's a good. Pacheco's really good, but like they also have Patrick freaking Mahomes.
Yeah. That offsets what you may need.
Like that kind of makes up for a little bit there. You don't really need prime Emmitt Smith back there to help your offense move along.
They would take him though. They would take prime.
Of course
Emmitt
they
Smith
would.
If they could. Team with the biggest potential to make a splash, Miami. Paul, you always study the Hurricanes because of the rivalry with FSU. They went all in on Cam Ward during the window. They still need help, but maybe they will find another alpha or two to add to their roster. They have the elite quarterback, elite offensive lineman, a pair of excellent receiving options, but expected to pursue a top-tier running back and maybe yet another receiver to match up with Cam Ward at quarterback.
I would think the dude from Penn State today.
I saw that,
who's in the portal, who's their leading receiver, and his name escapes me at the moment, even though I had just looked at it like 30 minutes ago. I would think that Miami's calling him right now because, look, they've got a year of Cam Ward, and then nothing after that is guaranteed for them and Mario Cristobal at the quarterback position. So this is a huge thing with Cam Ward to win with a guy who is very talented and very good, but hasn't been all that successful as far as W's go at the college level.
Right.
I mean, when it comes to Washington State, he wasn't in a bowl game last year. Now that's not all on him, but he's got an opportunity here at Miami. They do need to add a running back. They need to add a wide receiver. They added that 75th year tight end, which is not going to help him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them try to add at that position either. But they've got Jacoby George and Xavier Restrepo, who are really good receivers. Adding a third one and a running back who can take a lot of pressure off of Cam Ward would be huge for a Miami team that has been not relevant in the ACC in a long time and trying to get that jolt under Mario Cristobal. Offensive line, defensive line, really, really good. So there's really not much they need to do to try to take a step forward, but they really do need to make, maybe another move or two.
Yeah, Keandre Lambert-Smith, the Penn State wide receiver that's hit the portal.
The conference that is most upset, the SEC.
Well, you can't transfer and not sit out.
There you go. You cannot. And for example, UT, Texas, now that they'll be a part of the conference, they cannot add some of the names like what they've had. And A.D. Mitchell, Isaiah Bond, among others. That now is no longer available to them because they've done a really good job of not just getting players, but players who made a difference. The tight end from Alabama never really did, that they picked up a couple of years ago, but they can get into the portal. They cannot eat from their own conference.
Well, Texas and Oklahoma can until June. Right? Because they're not in the SEC yet.
I have not looked into that at all, but I would imagine that they're.
Well, they've already got Isaiah Bond. He hasn't.
Right. I would imagine that they're free because it's not officially SEC just yet until this summer. So, I would imagine they might be exempt from that, but I don't know that to be certain. But that would make sense that they would be, given that, again, they're not in the SEC right now.
And they've already gotten Isaiah Bond.
Right.
So, if that was about next year, what does it matter when they get Isaiah Bond? If Isaiah Bond is never going to play a Big 12 game, if he's going to play an SEC game, he would have to sit out since they're going to the SEC. But they might be standing in a loophole right now.
Yeah, let me. There was a nugget that he put inside that article. It was an asterisk that I'll go in there to see what he said. But again, that window's closing no matter what.
Otherwise, Isaiah Bond might as well go back to Alabama because he's not going to play next year if that rule applied to him.
SEC players in the last couple of cycles has made a portal killing with SEC no longer allowed to shop at Greg Sankey's store.
Okay, interconference transfer rules apply to Oklahoma, Texas ahead of spring window. Now, Paul, Isaiah Bond transferred in December, or he transferred in that last go-around, so that's why he would be exempt from that. But I just looked it up in 247, did have an article from just 3 days ago that said any outgoing OU and Texas players who enter the portal will not be immediately eligible if they transfer to an SEC school, according to a spokesperson from the conference. So, so that last window was from December 4th to January 2nd. That's why Isaiah Bond, I guess, would be exempt from that. But, that's interesting to know.
But my question still remains. I get why they're not doing the spring window, and that's good to enforce the rule. But Isaiah Bond transferred from Alabama to Texas after both their seasons were over, and Texas was no longer going to play a game in the Big 12. So it feels like this is something they maybe noticed after that happened.
Well, it might be a semester thing or not.
Well, I think it's like the springs when it starts.
Yeah.
He's enrolling in the spring.
Last time that they did it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
By the way, Tyrese Hunter just entered the transfer portal, UT's point guard. So that's
Iowa
from
State
Jeff.
fans laughing it up.
He left from Iowa State, went to UT. That's from Jeff Goodman with that note right there. And then the team that could surprise, former Oklahoma offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. They need a lot. They have some needs. Running back may surprise some people being in the mix based on what Chris Hummer's hearing when the portal, of course, opens tomorrow to try to keep up with the Joneses in, of course, the state of Mississippi with what Ole Miss and also Lane Kiffin have done.
I'm very curious to see how Jeff Lebby does there in Starkville, especially in this new SEC where there's two teams who are jumping into the fray that are, head and shoulders above you in pretty much every category football-wise. So he's got a tough road ahead of him. Obviously, with the transfer portal, they could go make a bunch of big splashes like their in-state brethren Ole Miss has and, speed up the process to getting where they want to be. So thank goodness for that. But, yeah, just in general, I mean, the place where Mississippi State finds itself, a new coach, and how he does as a first-time coach, I'm fascinated by how the Bulldogs look this year and just in general with Lebby and what kind of a talent they can attract. Like, they're going to have the benefits of having more money than a lot of schools and more exposure than a lot of schools. But do you sort of, what happens to those lower-level SEC schools? Do they sort of get lost in the shuffle, or is, it's still possible to be right there in the mix? And if so, how quickly can Jeff Lebby get them back into that mix? Yeah, that's an interesting story for sure out of the Southeastern Conference.
All right, when we come back, Nebraska football coach Matt Rhule will join us. We'll call him and start the 4 o'clock hour off with him. We gave you what Chris Hummer had to say. He will join us later in the week to look back at the first 2 or 3 days of the portal. And also, Jana Bardal will join us tomorrow on the story of the multiple time transfers. We mentioned it's like 25% already, including those that are accounted for among the 2,000 plus or so FBS scholarship college football players.
The Isaiah Bond thing, I just realized Nick Saban retired.
Oh, okay.
There's that
free
window.
And clear.
There's
Yeah, because I was looking at the dates and I'm like, wait a second, he did that in mid-January, so that still wouldn't apply. But then, Nick Saban retired, so he didn't have the same rules that everybody else had. So that answers that question.
All right, Matt Rhule, Nebraska, year 2 with him and the Huskers. What does he see? What has he seen as far as any questions answered? Still some there. What about the freshman phenom in Rhule? And what are the strengths of his football team moving forward? And this is 365 Sports. When I had my back procedure a couple of Fridays ago, one of the things that made that process so simple and so quick, because sometimes you got to wait a while, is I got in touch with the Carroll Clinic. Their doctor's office contacted me, set up an appointment for consultation with Dr. Robinson, and it was less than 2 weeks later, I had a back procedure. In fact, a week ago on Friday, and it went so smoothly. The efficiency was incredible. One of the reasons why it went faster than perhaps normal was because of the MRIs that I've had at Ideal MRI. When that was brought up to me, can you bring the images? Can you bring the readings and the diagnosis? And I had that on a disc, and I brought that to them, 2 of them. And that made a huge difference. And I was able to get my procedure done. And it's been nice to get that done with the relief starting to slowly but surely get better and better. Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time you use them. And they will also file insurance papers for you to help lower the cost. And also state-of-the-art imaging machine located in the Central Texas marketplace in the southern part of I-35 in Waco with Dr. Rob Maxey in a great partnership at idealmri.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales at Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
He starts year 2 with Nebraska, Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule with the Temple, also with Baylor, where we got to know him very well, Carolina Panthers, and joins us on 365 Sports. Matt, thank you as always for your time. Why year 2 has always been special for you? Why is that? Some guys come in, maybe the team's more loaded, you've rebuilt rosters, you've had to change culture, deal with other things as well. Why has year 2 always been that good for you?
Well, usually because year 1 wasn't very good. There's usually there's nowhere to go but up. But what I would say is, we build our program really on like player development. We build our program on standards. And the first year, those seniors, whether it's the great group we just had here this year, whether it's the great guys I had at Baylor, like Taylor Young, or guys that I had at Temple, like they really don't know what to expect. It's so different, maybe sometimes, maybe it's not. But year 2, you kind of know what to expect. You understand not just the what, but the why. And you usually make some progress. And so I'd say right now we're kind of headed in that direction where I expect us to make some progress based upon where we were last year.
Have you been able to download all the information from Coach Belichick last week?
Yeah, Coach was amazing, man. I mean, he came in and just sat there and talked with us for, 4.5 hours, just sitting there visiting. And I think the thing that when you spend some time with really, really, brilliant thinkers is usually they take really complex subjects and make them simple. And he had some really great thoughts for us, some things that confirmed ways that we do things, some things that made us think about how we could do things better. So it was just an unbelievable day. And then he spoke at our clinic and did a great job with that.
Coach, what is the puzzle pieces that you're most trying to figure out right now with this team? You obviously know your team a lot better. I'd imagine the culture's probably coming along. So where's your area of emphasis? Is it more on position battles, or is it still a matter of trying to do the extracurriculars and the outside work still as well?
Yeah, I think we have a great locker room. We have a great team that does things right. I really don't have any questions about that. If you look back to last year, we were probably a top 3, top 4 defense in the Big Ten, probably a top 15 nationally, and really struggled, mainly on offense in the passing game. I think we were second or third in running the football, but struggled in the passing game. And so, one of our main focuses this year has been, really concentrating on the controlled passing game, not just, trying to be explosive and play actions, but really be able to come out, whether it's third down or 2-minute or, in the red zone, and throw and catch the ball at a high level. And I think with our run game and with our defense, if we can add that part of the passing game in, I think we can really make a jump. And so I think that's kind of globally, but our approach is we're trying to help every player get better. We're always trying to move guys around in different positions to help them be as successful as possible. And that's kind of the approach we continue to take right now.
Harburg last year came in and did everything he possibly could. Then you had the 2 incoming freshmen with both Dylan Rhule and Daniel Kalin. How do you tap the brakes on expectations for what everyone seems to say about Dylan Rhule?
I'd say most people either A, aren't happy, or B, aren't real successful when they're sitting there worried about other people's expectations. I think when you have the type of recruiting that, status that Dylan had, you're obviously going to, understand that there's high expectations. I mean, the thing is just to root yourself in the, day-by-day process and make sure that when you, wake up every single day, instead of saying, hey, I'm a 5-star recruit, say, hey, I gave 5-star effort today. I improved in a 5-star type of a way. And so I think you take that across the program. That's really kind of the way we do things. So, for us, it's easy just to look at Dylan or look at Daniel Kalin, or look at, one of the freshman walk-ons that joined the program, and have the same expectation for all of them. They wake up every day and they try to get 1% better and attack everything that they do.
You know him and knew him because of family on staff, and obviously the history and legacy and lineage at Nebraska. What do you know about him that perhaps you didn't know?
Just an excellent young man. I mean, he's there's no entitlement. There's nothing but work ethic. He wants to be good. He works hard at it. It kind of fits right into our culture and our way of doing things. And so, in the years that we've been successful, we've been really blessed to have great quarterback play, and that whether that was PJ Walker at Temple or Charlie Brewer at Baylor, and that a lot of that came from their preparation and their confidence, and their preparation and confidence made their teammates believe in them. So, Dylan's only a freshman. He's working on, all of that. Daniel's a freshman. He's working on all of that. But that is the recipe. And, I think he believes in that, comes by it, honestly.
This is year 2 for you in the new world of college football. When you left and came back, so many things had changed so fast. Do you feel more capable in hitting the ground running this year with all the other things as opposed to basically having to get on planes and get in cars and start recruiting in all these different ways that before you didn't even think about because they weren't available to you?
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. I might preach every once in a while about how I think something's right or wrong, but for the most part, whatever the rules of engagement are, I try to embrace them as quickly as possible. Sitting around complaining about things doesn't get anything done, and so I'm definitely more comfortable this year than last year, just with a little bit of experience. I think I have a better rhythm to, hey, this is how we should do this, and this is how we should handle the portal, and this is how we should handle recruiting. Because at the end of the day, this is always going to be a player acquisition, player retention, player development game. And so, going through this first year, I think we recruited at a pretty high level. now we have to just continue to make that year after year after year, and we'll continue to adapt as the game changes.
Coach, I always try to follow players from the state of Texas doing stuff with the Earl Campbell Award, and a guy who I saw commit to UT a year ago. I was fascinated by him, Isaiah Nayor. Obviously, they were pretty deep at wide receiver. He was dealing with injuries, so on and so forth. But now he's with you guys, and I can imagine he's probably pretty hungry. I saw notes about him throughout the springtime. What can you tell us about the addition of Isaiah Nayor and just what you've learned about him, what you liked about his game, and what you think he can do for the Cornhuskers?
Well, Isaiah's, tremendously talented. Just a physical specimen. Can run, big, fast, explosive. Mitch Cholowinski, who's our director of sports science here. Mitch worked under Andrew Altoff when I was with him at Baylor. Then went to Texas. Had some connection in terms of some knowledge of not only Isaiah's ability but also his work ethic and his character. And so he was really big on, hey, if we can get this guy, we should get him here. And it's been great to have him. I think he will only add to a young receiving core, bring some experience. He's had some adversity. He's learned how to overcome things, and he's also extremely talented.
Matt, without getting into what has at times been a team that's hurt themselves the last several years, not just last year, but several years, is that just something as you get better players, more experienced players, they understand the football IQ better?
I don't know if it's. I mean, I'm sure in some ways it's partially that. I think we as a coaching staff take a tremendous amount of responsibility on. Hey, we have to coach at a high level so that our guys aren't beating themselves in crucial moments. And I think a lot of it comes down to just the confidence, an expectation level. If you believe that things are going to happen, and you believe that you're going to go make the plays it takes to win, usually you do. I mean, that 2019 season, we had the ball 2nd and 19 at the -1 yard line against Texas Tech. Down 3 points. It was just over a minute, and Charlie took us and really threw a touchdown to Denzel that he dropped. Or else we would have won the game outright and had to kick a field goal. Whether it's a 53-yard field goal against TCU that year in 4 overtimes. Those were teams that when they got down to those crucial moments, they believed that they were going to find a way. And yes, it's good players, but there was a level of confidence that came from some of those guys. There was a level of confidence that came from Charlie Brewer. There was a level of confidence that came from Denzel and from all those guys on the defense, those great players we had on defense. That hey, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna make the play it takes to win the game. And I think the thing that we're trying to get across to our guys is, we practice and we work and we do things at such a difficult level. We ask so much of the players that they should be really confident in those crucial moments because we've asked them to do such hard things. So that's kind of how we built Baylor, and we won those games in crucial moments and crucial times. And we're always going to try to recruit, but we don't want to fix our problems only with recruiting. We want to fix it with mindset and preparation, and I think we're making some progress there.
Nebraska football coach Matt Rhule with us on 365 Sports.
Coach, you recently had to meet the new athletic director, Troy Dannon, a Midwesterner through and through. That's always kind of a shocking process when you have staff changes or things happen above you in any walk of life. So far, what's been your relationship like with Troy Dannon?
Yeah, Troy's great. I mean, Troy was at Tulane when I was at Temple. I've had a chance to get to know him over the years. And I think anytime you can have an athletic director who's taken a group of 5 school like Tulane and taken them to the college football, group of 5, what do they call it, the big New Year's 6 games, beat USC 2 years ago. So the investment that they made there, and then comes to Washington, goes all the way to the national championship game. I mean, they've seen it. They know what it takes. I mean, make no mistake, it takes an unbelievable commitment and investment for programs to be able to sustain winning at that high level. And so it's great to have Troy here because he's done that. He knows it. And now we can continue to accelerate what's expected and what's done here at Nebraska.
Matt, when you have a president that wanted you, and your AD and Trev Alberts who wanted you, and then you have a little bit of that disruption, how much of that gets on your radar and how much of that do you focus on?
Well, I think you're obviously when the people that hire you leave, you just hope that the people that they replace them with want you too. So there's a part of that. I think along the way though, I've fallen in love with being at the University of Nebraska, and so it's one of those deals where, hey, let's make this work and let's make it great. And hiring Troy's been awesome. Now, I look back at my history. I went to Temple. I was hired by Bill Bradshaw as the AD. Replaced him with Kevin Clark, who then promoted Pat Kraft, and Pat being one of my best friends to this day. And we did a lot of great things. Coming in with Mac, who was awesome, and he brings in Jeremiah Dickey and Dr. Livingstone. She wasn't there when I first got hired, but she comes in, and one of the great presidents I've ever worked under was Dr. Livingstone. So just trusting that the right people will be there, and really trying to make sure that the thing that I can do is just like not complaining about NIL and transfer portals, just focusing on the things that I can control and doing my job at a high level, making sure that we're recruiting, we're coaching, we're working, we're preparing. And if I do that, trusting that things will work themselves out.
How much of the 152 games that have been started by the 7 offensive linemen, is that like almost a bucket full of yummy when it comes to a position that I know means a lot to you?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, those guys have seen a lot of wars, and those are 152. Those are Big Ten games. I mean, that's difficult. That's difficult to play in these weather conditions and play in these games. So we got a tough group of guys. They do things really, really, really well. They do things at a high level. So we just believe, we always have, that you win with great offensive and defensive line play. So since we've been here, we've invested, whether it's been the weight room or nutrition or coaching, and also recruiting. We've invested in those positions and look forward to seeking the return.
How much has Micah Mazzccua matured, and how much can he help you? The former, obviously, he's been around, including the time at Baylor.
Yeah, I've known Micah since obviously he committed to go play for Coach Aranda. But, we'd started that recruiting process. We've known him since going back to Philly. Really, really talented young man. As with any change, at first, kind of understanding what we're looking for, the expectation level. But he loves football. He's a good person. He's wanted to do what we've asked. I like those kind of guys, and so I've enjoyed my time with Micah. And he can definitely help us. I mean, we want to go in with 7 or 8 guys that we believe can start. So, unfortunately, a couple injuries last year really hurt us. But what they did do is they gave us a chance to get Justin Evans in the game as a starter, give us a chance to get Teddy Prohaska in the game as a starter. So we returned a lot of starters as a result of those injuries.
And Mike is also Italian, so that makes him way cooler. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but he gets some of that Italian passion and put it on the football field. That would help.
Absolutely. Matt, the fanfare that comes with being the Nebraska coach, does it ever, I mean, I know that there's stress that comes with it, obviously, of expectations, but does it ever get old to be in a place that is so passionate about a thing?
No, I much prefer passion over empathy. I much prefer coming to a place where the people, really, really love football, and they're going to be there, rain or shine, and they're going to expect the game to be played at a high level. So, I love people. I love getting to know people. I love talking to people. I love being around them. I love, meeting little kids that want to be Huskers someday. It's a lot like, my time at Baylor. I love the people that I met in Waco, and some of our best friends are still there. You come here, you meet similar people, and I will say that you realize pretty soon how much this team, means to the state, and it puts a tremendous, obligation, almost burden in a positive way, but where you feel like, I've got to do a great job to make sure that the state can be proud of our team.
How do you describe Huskers fans? I mean, is there a way to? Because even after all of what's happened in recent years, I know you've fallen in love with that area.
Yeah, well, they're passionate and they're knowledgeable. I remember when we first got here, Ed Foley told the story of, he went and spoke at Rotary Club or something like that. And there were a couple hundred people, and he's a special teams coordinator, and woman stood up, late 60s, early 70s, and said, "Hey, are we going to fair catch the ball? Are we going to, in recent years we have, it's not a lot of fluff. It's a lot of a lot of ball. And I think the biggest thing that I can tell you is it's being here in our first game. Everyone's in the stands. 45 minutes to an hour before the game to watch warm-ups, and it's kind of the Husker way, to make sure they're out there to watch all the guys as they contribute. And so I've really enjoyed that part of it. It's made football really fun for me. I'm excited to hopefully bring them a winner.
What do you think it'll mean if you do start winning again? When you start winning again there?
Well, I think obviously it'll mean a lot to people, and at the same time, it'll also, sometimes you don't know what you had till it's gone. It's like you talk about places. I walk out of my office every day. There's 5 national championship trophies, and so the on top of the college football world, and then unfortunately to have sort of the path that's happened. I think people, again, I think they've appreciated our effort and the work that we put in, the way the players have played the first year. But yeah, we need to go win, so that people can get back to planning their holiday parties around bowl games and trips and things like that. So we have a lot of work to do to get there. But we were close last year. Weren't able to get it done down the stretch. But I think we really grew as a program, and I expect us to make a significant jump this year.
The portal opens tomorrow, which God knows what might happen with that. You have to re-recruit even your own roster, even sometimes now and through the season. You had to not re-recruit Tony White, but boy, you had to fight off some people that understand how special he is. How much of a recruiting coup was keeping him as your defensive coordinator headed into year 2?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't even think of it as like re-recruit our own players or, re-recruit. Like I think it's a privilege to be here. And I think the biggest thing is, we just try to always put the players first, right? And try to have them wake up every single day saying, man, I'm really taken care of. I'm being developed. I'm becoming a great player. And that's similar to Tony. You have some opportunities, and we extended his contract and gave him the money that he deserved. But I think more important than that is, when you have an end game of being a head coach, kind of making sure he realized that, hey, there's some opportunities here, being a part of the revitalization of Nebraska football that won't be duplicated. And when you do have the opportunity to be a head coach, being a part of this turnaround is going to be something that you can really draw from. And so, I want people to be here because they want to be here, but also because they believe, there's no better place for my future than for me to be at the University of Nebraska. And that's players, coaches, everybody. And I think Tony recognizes the opportunity he has to build on what we did on defense and be a part of a tremendous turnaround. And if we can get the program turned, then the things we did at Temple, the things we did at Baylor, the things that we do here, kind of the way we do it. Tony will be a part of that, and then he brings his own unique spin. He's a great defensive coordinator, and I think we'll do great things on defense again this year.
Matt, a few years ago here at Baylor, Smokey asked you a question or told your wife that you were drinking Monster energy drinks.
Stop!
While we were waiting.
This is not something.
While we were waiting for you to come into the press conference and got you in trouble. Have you? How's that going? And how did you do it? Because Craig and I would like Smokey to stop drinking them as well.
Oh, Smokes! Talk about wow, Smokey! I had no idea you were calling me out, yet you're doing the same thing. So
yeah,
I wasn't calling you out. I think she.
I think right after that, then the doctor got on it, and the doctor was like,
"Oh boy,
I'd rather you drink this than He gave me some pretty good choices instead of energy drinks. So I haven't had an energy drink in about 5 or 6 years. So maybe Smokey saved my life. I don't know.
That's the way to look at it. That's the best.
Since then, and it's funny. My doctor told me the other day. He's like, "Hey, I'll let you have 30 to 40 ounces of caffeine a day." So I drink a lot of coffee, but the chemicals and all that, they're not for me anymore.
Chemicals.
Thank you, Matt. And look, I do promise I will get him up to Lincoln.
No, I got a couple of things personally that I got to deal with, like a surgery in the middle of May, and a couple of other things with family. Once I get that done, I'm making a road trip. I'll call to make sure you're there. And we'll get in the car, come up and see you, even if we have to just spend a half a day and bother the hell out of you. And I can't wait. It will be one of the great days of my life.
You should come in June, because I tell you what, there's no better time around here than, I'll be honest with you, the College World Series was one of the coolest things I was a part of last year. So come up to Lincoln, check out Lincoln, come see the facilities, hang out with me, go over to the College World Series. It's about 45 minutes away, and really do it right. But you're welcome anytime. I'd love to have you, and I'll make sure that there's a sugar-free Monster or whatever it is that you drink ready for you.
I promise you, I've seen Nebraska play in person a lot, but I've never actually been to Memorial Stadium, which is still just disgusting that I've never made that trip. I don't know. Well, I didn't have anybody a connection like you. I mean, Coach Osborne would call me every once in a while, but I didn't know it was his number. He'd leave me a number when you're coming up, but I can't wait to see you. I really can't. We'll hopefully see you on the recruiting trail as well. We always have enjoyed that. Good luck with what's going on, getting through what you have as far as another year coming up. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate you guys.
Hey,
Thank you so much.
Too. Matt Rhule, Nebraska football coach on 365 Sports. And I do think that's going to be one of those things where I just say, hey, let's go to Lincoln. It's a pretty long drive, but let's just go to Lincoln just a couple of days, spend up there. I might not want to leave.
Well, look, we got to get you to a game there too, though.
Yeah, I know. That's hard to do.
Look, there's Midway schedule's not out yet, right?
No, the schedule is out. I just don't know exactly. I believe that I think it is out, the home and away. Yeah.
Send me the schedule, and I'm gonna make this happen.
Well, didn't he say that they also started at least a handful of flights every weekend now that go from Dallas?
There we go.
Into Omaha or Lincoln.
It sounds like you're just making excuses at this point.
We're not going
to. No, I actually had legitimate reasons for the longest of time because I could never get off on a Friday.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find an overlap, or I can always get a pinch hitter for one Midway game for you.
That'd be great.
I can find
you need
somebody.
To get two.
We'll have to get three people, but
you're going to get back in the football radio business.
No. Yeah. I'm going to Lincoln too. I took this show on the road by myself last year. It wasn't fair to you guys that I got to go to Orlando. Yep. I'm going to look, not that it's that far, but I'll be doing the Friday show while you guys are doing a Midway game.
FSU at SMU.
At SMU this year. So there's no reason we can't do that a couple more times at different places around the country. So.
All right. Thanks to Matt Rhule. Appreciate his time. Coming up in the next segment, Chad Brendel. He, of course, covers Cincinnati, done with their spring game over the weekend. I read up on quite a bit of what the Bearcats got done. He is next, and this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Here are the specials for this week at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Fresh tuna steaks, $16.99 a pound. These are thick, and you can tell they are absolutely mouth-watering, ready for you to do however you want to cook them on the grill or elsewhere. 8-ounce lobster tails at almost $18 a piece. Also, chicken thighs at $1.70 each. Pork steaks at $2.05 a pound. Tri-tip at $4.99 a pound. Top sirloin steak $8.50 a pound. Bone-in choice ribeye steak at $15.99 a pound, and 10% off on all popcorn. And yes, you could order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. Do it by Wednesday at 6. You could pick up your order anytime after Friday at 4 for your crawfish boil. 30-pound sacks of bags of live crawfish. Order how many you want. And they have what you also need when it comes to sausage, to crab legs, if you want to add that to the mix. If you want to also have your seasoning, your boil, they have it. Corn, potatoes, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Cincinnati Bearcats got Satterfield wrapping up spring. If we want to know about Cincinnati, Chad Brendel, BearcatJournal.com is who we go to, and he joins us now on 365 Sports. Chad, thanks for your time. What questions did they absolutely need to answer, and which ones did they?
I think the 2 main ones were quarterback, and I think they did. I think Brendan Sorsby, the transfer from Indiana, Texas boy. So, you guys have some love for Brendan Sorsby, but he came in and looked really good consistently throughout the spring. He throws a consistent ball. He's good in the pocket. He's got some maneuverability. He can push it down the field, but more importantly for this Cincinnati offense, he can make throws in the intermediate and short range. He was really good this spring on leading guys on swing passes and screens and things out in the flat where they just couldn't get any productivity there last year. So I think, offensively, Sorsby was definitely the revelation. Look, you can't be good in college football if you're bad at quarterback. Cincinnati was bad at quarterback last year, and the record showed it. Defensively, it's the conversation is pretty much strictly about this switch essentially to Iowa State's defense. They hired Iowa State's longtime linebackers coach Tyson Veit. They are going to that 3 safety look that Iowa State has used with great success defensively over the past 6-7 years. It's an adjustment. It's taking some time, but it's a really fascinating defense, and I've enjoyed getting to kind of learn and understand and get a grasp on why it's so effective. And the safety spot is the key there. They were bad at safety last year. They brought in 6-7 new safeties. So that's a lot at one position in one offseason. And they looked much improved. They're longer, they're more athletic. But those are kind of the 2 main things.
last year was, two different things. One, they're going in a new conference, and two, they have a new head coach. So had they been good, it would have kind of been maybe even nobody would have known why that would have happened. Of course, bringing in Emory Jones at quarterback and his third school and all the different changes that he went through. How much more of a fresh start does this year feel like as opposed to maybe last year, which had just so many moving parts to it?
Yeah, I think, you're so desperate to keep everything together. And you don't have the inside knowledge of guys that maybe aren't fits and are fits and who fits where and who are leaders and, who are energy givers and who are energy takers from the previous staff. And I think that kind of played itself out pretty aggressively last year. This year, it feels like there's a lot more established, kind of the hierarchy of the locker room seems to be a lot healthier, a lot more established, a lot more rowing in the same direction as the coaching staff. And that's hard, especially when you're replacing a guy like Luke Fickell, who was such a commanding president, such a big personality. He leaves. Guess what? There are going to be some people that are still on kind of his side, quote unquote, if you will. And it takes some time to work through all that. And I think that's what they've done at this point.
Chad, do you believe Dante Corleone will get back to his All-American type levels in 2024?
I do. There were some things last year that I think that staff wanted to accomplish defensively that they maybe didn't have. Dante wasn't the right personnel for. You have a mountain of a human at defensive tackle, and they used him on a lot of stunts and twists and things that required speed. That's not his game. His game is win the point of attack and take the guy that's in front of him and shove him 7 yards into the backfield because he's stronger than that guy.
Right.
And, this defense appears to be a little bit more designed to allow him to pin his ears back and get upfield as opposed to playing sideways and not playing into his strengths.
So did I notice that, and everybody, well, not everybody, but most programs like to bring the former players back, but I saw some shots of some former players coming back. Was that something emphasized even more in year two with Satterfield now that they know him a little bit better too?
Sure. They also, so it was kind of it was a crazy weekend at Cincinnati. I don't know if you guys saw or not.
Yeah,
but
I did.
Travis and Jason Kelce did their New Heights podcast on Thursday at Fifth Third Arena. There was a ton of guys that came back for that.
Okay, yeah.
And then every year leading into the spring game on Friday, they have their alumni golf outing. So they had 200 guys back for that. And then the morning of the spring game every year, they have the champion or the captain's breakfast, which if you've ever been a captain for University of Cincinnati football, you get invited to the captain's breakfast. So it was kind of a perfect storm of all of these guys were back connected to a couple of these different events. And it just turned into kind of the who's who of Cincinnati football. I mean, you saw the picture, I'm sure, that UC tweeted out, like Jason Kelce standing there talking to Sauce Gardner. There's not a lot of places that can put that picture out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that is pretty common in terms of with the golf outing and the captain's breakfast. There are always a lot of guys back in town for the spring game. But when you add in the Kelce's coming back and everything that goes along with that, it was bigger than normal. And I'm sure Scott Satterfield was very happy they didn't have to do a whole lot. It was just they put the bat signal out and everybody arrived.
I know that you are close with Jason, right? Did you
Yes.
get to see him and talk to him?
We did. So my daughter is named after Jason.
Yep.
She will tell you she's named after Travis because Travis is the hot one. But as I tell her, she was born in 2010 and Travis sucked in 2010. He was suspended. He didn't play football. Why would I name her after that guy? So yeah, I did get to see Jason and chat with him for a little bit. He is every bit as genuine and a good dude as he seems from the outside. He saw my daughter for the first time and Kelce, and gave her a big hug. And it's been, they've been back and forth trying to meet each other for 13 years. He was like that with every fan that came up and looked for an autograph or a picture. He's just an awesome, awesome human.
Chad, now that, we're getting to the end of the spring sports here, the end of this first year in the Big 12, what have been your overall thoughts seeing just, we've had basketball come and go, football come and go. What have been your impressions of just maybe some of the things that have stood out, and maybe what are some of the things that, Cincinnati fans have wrapped their heads around about, what year 2 needs to look like, how you can get there, so on and so forth?
I think, one, there's definitely for fans a learning curve of, oh, man, the depth is really what's different. It's not that difficult. I mean, it is, but it's not that difficult to have frontline guys, 6, 7, 8 top of the roster guys that look like all the rest of the guys in the league. But I think what the learning curve, especially in football, was, man, every team basically has these guys 1 through 60, 1 through 70. Sure, there's developmental guys on the back end of the roster, but the top 2/3 of every roster is ready pretty much to contribute in the league. I think the other thing that was learned is there's not a lot of separation in this league.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of really good coaching, but especially now with Texas and Oklahoma exiting, I think we're going to see even more of the volatile swings from one year to the next, where one year you win your close games and you have a great year. Next year you lose a couple of those close games and you're hovering around 6-6 or 7-5. I think that, and then basketball, my goodness.
Yeah, what'd you think?
It was so awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys understand what going through a decade having to cover the American is like, because you don't want to watch the games. If I've got a night free, a Thursday night free, do I really want to sit down and watch Tulsa play ECU? No, I do not. I don't want to do that.
Right.
And this year it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. If Cincinnati's not playing, I am locked in front of my TV watching a Big 12 game and being thoroughly entertained 97% of the time. It's just such a competitive, fun, talented, well-coached, well-played basketball league that I can get very used to having this occupy November through March every year for me, as opposed to what we had.
Yeah, I think most fans, people wouldn't even realize that Cincinnati goes from the Big East, which is like having a porterhouse every night with lobster, surf and turf, to a meal they don't care about that they can get any time. And I don't want to knock the American, but the Big East, great basketball conference in its first incarnation, great basketball conference now, but for people who are used to that to go and have to teams that they just don't care about at all, that's got to be tough to go through.
I don't know how great the Big East now Xavier is there,
yeah.
So I am good friends with Danny Hurley though, so I pull for the Huskies. He's like the biggest Bengals fan on the planet.
I didn't know
he
that.
loves the Cincinnati Bengals. Every time I text him, he texts me back and then ends it with "Who Dey?" But I digress. Yeah, it's hard because you just don't care. I just don't care what Tulane does in basketball. I don't care. And now I do care about every team in the league. There's something, even you look at Oklahoma State, if they could have held that together, that was a really young, talented roster that I thought could be a lot better next year. They hit the reset button, but West Virginia had a ton of talent. So everything is interesting, as opposed to in the American, the problem was Cincinnati was interesting, Houston was interesting, Memphis was interesting. And after that, it was we have a root canal scheduled every Sunday and Thursday. Make sure you're there.
Man. Yeah, that's not good. And so about men's basketball, how do they get better? I know that they've already maybe dipped in the transfer portal. I saw a couple of notes on your timeline. Can they acquire the talent they need to get even better?
Yeah, I mean, the nice part is, guys, they're not far off. They're looking like they are going to return pretty much their entire core from last year that lost. They won 6 games in conference play and had 6 others that they lost by 1 or 2 possessions. So they weren't far off last year, and they were young. They just, ironically enough, you know how this stuff works, guys. Like 4 minutes before I came on with you, they got a transfer commitment out of the portal. Connor Hickman, who played for Bradley, who had a very good year in the Missouri Valley, averaged 14 points and shot, 41, 42% from 3, which is what this team needs. They need some guys that can really stretch the floor to help with Jizzle James, who really came on at the end of the year and looks like he's going to be a star. Yeah. And Dan Skillings, who had he was the leading scorer and had a very good year in the Big 12. Had a good game against Baylor, I think, as well. So they've got a core. Now they need to supplement it. They've added Connor Hickman. I think they're in a pretty good spot for a former top 50 big man that just spent his freshman season at USC named Arrington Page in the transfer portal. And then you go out and you find kind of the best available talent you can find. They have 3 spots open right now. You go find one more guy, and I think you've got a roster that's really, I don't know if it's ready to win the league. I'm not ready to take that leap, but I think it's ready to be even more competitive in the middle than it was a year ago.
Chad, you just mentioned Jizzle James. It's like a pro football Hall of Fame town now, Cincinnati. I mean, you got the Kelces there. You got Sauce Gardner, who's obviously got a bright career going on right now. And then Edgerrin around to watch his son. What's it like having Edgerrin James roll around Cincinnati a little bit?
The funny thing is he's very quiet, very humble. Like as big as his personality is or his play on the field is, he's not a guy that seeks a spotlight. They don't put him on the Jumbotron. I mean, they have a little bit, but he just kind of likes to live his life. He's a Florida guy that likes to be out on the water and fishing. And, so it's very cool to have him around, obviously. As many guys like that as you can get, you want to be around. But I've been pretty impressed that he's been pretty low key. He doesn't buy into his hype machine as much as a lot of guys in that situation do.
Chad, thank you, man. Great to have you on the show. Great to see you via Zoom. Garrett, great job doing that. Chad Brendel knows Cincinnati Bearcat Athletics from Cincinnati, of course, with BearcatJournal.com. Love his passion, love his knowledge, too.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. There's obviously a lot of questions that they still have to answer, like a lot of teams in the Big 12 post-spring ball. We'll see. Can't really get too much of a season preview right now because there's the transfer portal hitting tomorrow. And so what does that look like on the other side of it? But, I thought that was really cool that they had the Kelce's there doing their show live, and that seemed to be a really big deal. And helping raise money for NIL was part of them doing that. So that's great. And, maximize those legends in your program. That's important. That's why, you don't have to – always send guys to the pros to be a successful program, but it's really good when you can do that on top of being successful because then you get, the biggest sports podcast in the world right now, I believe, at least in America it is and has been for a while, broadcasting live there at your school with probably definitely the most famous football players considering who he's dating and his brothers know, pushover either. He's a Hall of Famer. So
it will be the number one sports podcast in the world as long as Travis doesn't screw this thing up.
Right. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So that's, absolutely maximize that. And so good, smart on Cincinnati, even whoever's idea it was, that was cool. Sauce Gardner being around. That's one thing that's great about spring ball is when you kind of do have that sort of reunion type of a feel to it when you've got a lot of guys who are big names. And so I can imagine for recruits that might have been around or watching, paying attention, that certainly made you raise your eyebrows in a good way a little bit. But then, great to be able to ask them about basketball, though, as well, since we hadn't really been able to touch on that too much. And Jizzle James was one of the fun players to watch this year in the Big 12 and was just a true freshman. So, I wanted to sneak in the question about his dad because of all the NFL tie-ins there. But I'm excited to see what they do in year 2. Obviously, year 1 was a bit rough. That Baylor game, there's moments like that you hope go a different way. And I think he absolutely nailed it when talking about the Big 12. Granted, there's about to be 4 more teams coming in this year to further shake things up. But I do think that everybody's in enough of a close space that It's really a matter of like what kind of breaks do you get any given year? Because we've seen that with Baylor. In 2021, they pretty much got the breaks. Like they kicked the last-second field goal. And then in 2022, they're on the opposite end of that where all of a sudden
It's TCU.
It's TCU. Yeah, TCU. One year they're getting every break known to man as far as just the ball bouncing their way and finding themselves, roll into the playoffs until the Big 12 championship game. But then last year, a lot of those scenarios, similar situations, went the opposite direction. They don't even make a bowl game. So it really can be that razor thin and just sort of like what kind of bounce are you getting from the ball? And so I think for Cincinnati, they caught some tough breaks last year. And if they can catch some better ones this year, then they should go bowling and have a much better feeling about where the program is headed.
There's been a little bit of a surge with a program or two. Obviously, Oklahoma was the constant for a long time. Texas had their run with Mac, and then they went through their struggles. And last year they were dominant. There were a couple of games, the K-State game, Houston game, which could have. It still surprises me that with a conference that's been so evenly matched from pretty much top to nearly bottom, that you didn't have some 8-4 that you didn't have like mass chaos at the top with 3 or 4 losses at the top of the conference. It always kind of just found a way to make itself work with 1 or 2 teams or 5 teams right there with the 1 or 2 losses along the way. All right, we're not done. Couple of notes coming forward. The 5 o'clock hour, the voice of the Cowboys and Brad Sham. Somebody just sent me a note in the premium section. Hey, in case you didn't know, be sure to ask him about Verne Lundquist. That's why he's on today, is because having him look back at the career of Verne Lundquist. And yes, we'll get into the Cowboys offseason too.
When we come back, I just sent Garrett a tweet. You have it.
I have it if you want it.
Okay,
let's go to that because I have one of the notes. Yeah.
Okay, let's just go to this right now. It's not going to take you guys long. I can already predict the headlines. I'm going to ask you when you think this tweet is from. Kentucky pursues Scott Drew. Scott Drew signs lifetime contract with Baylor. Kentucky has reached out to Billy Donovan. Kentucky set to announce Mark Pope as next head coach. When do you think that tweet is from?
I'm going to let you go first because I know exactly where you're going with this, yes.
Okay, so he announced a statement that he was going to stay at Baylor.
No.
I can already predict this tweet is from. This guy's saying I can already predict that he's predicting the headlines.
Oh, I don't know. The day that Calipari left for Arkansas?
You'd be wrong by a lot. Craig, go ahead.
I don't remember the exact date, but it was like a year ago.
January 12th, last year.
A year ago.
A year ago.
Over a year ago.
Yeah, over a year ago. This guy, B3 of Big Blue Nation.
How did you find that?
Well, it went everywhere. It went viral because somebody found it. I guess maybe somebody had bookmarked it and remembered. And so when the Scott Drew Kentucky stuff started up, somebody dug this tweet back up and was like, holy cow, this is like dead on in every way. Kentucky pursues Scott Drew. They did. Scott Drew he hadn't signed a lifetime contract, but for all intents and purposes, he did by turning down Kentucky. Kentucky's reached out to Billy Donovan. We know that they at least kicked the tires there. And then Kentucky's set to announce Mark Pope, though, is like that's the one where you're like, how the first 3, it's still bizarre that he nailed all 3 of those, but then to nail the Mark Pope one on top of that is just like, I hope that person bought a lottery ticket.
I hope that people like send him money on PayPal or Venmo.
His profile says sometimes podcaster. Bro, that needs to be more than sometimes.
No, you need. Hey, by the way, he nailed it when there are certain people that try to nail it by just being off the wall, and they don't.
That was dead on.
I nailed this one out of the 25 I was wrong with, and there's too many of those people as far as media on Twitter and social media.
For sure, it's too much of a look at me and and kind of that deal of like let's just focus on the one time you hit as opposed to the 90 times you're wrong, and that's kind of like what social media can be. But like that was one of the cool posts throughout that Scott Drew ordeal was seeing that one just check, and all the way to Mark Pope. So yeah, that was a neat view into the future by that Twitter user, and had to feel pretty surreal to see that all unfold like they thought that it might.
Somebody did send a note in the text line. It said Mark Pope's going to have trouble at home because he doesn't have that big altitude difference.
No.
Like he
yeah.
did
I
in
mean,
Provo.
I don't know. All I can take away from the whole Kentucky situation so far was I definitely think that they unintentionally kind of ran away Scott Drew with their passion. Like, I think that worked against them ultimately. We all thought Scott would stay, and we're all glad that he did because there was, I don't think any of us thought, like, there's no chance he's leaving because it was Kentucky and given the situation. But we all felt strongly about his ties to Baylor, so that was cool to see. But, yeah, I mean, there's huge expectations and what looked like initially a very poor reception for Mark Pope because you wanted Billy Donovan and you wanted Scott Drew and you wanted this guy or that guy. I mean, after his introductory press conference, they seemed to be pretty satisfied because, we said at the start of the show, he hit all the right notes, and now – you've got to go win. But for the time being, he's going to have the full-on arsenal of Kentucky backing him, and what they can do with that will be very interesting to watch because there are thoughts that Calipari dropped the ball when it came to NIL and some of the things that were involved. And so now you've got a guy who's one of them and who's got the full arsenal at his disposal. So, yeah, that'll be something to watch. But just glad we're not having to watch that with Scott Drew because as much as we would have been – happy for him, it would have been very bittersweet. And
we'd be working on it right now.
It would have been really hard to go through a coaching search, and also just watching him go do his thing there would have been very strange. So I'm glad that we don't have to experience that. Sorry, BYU fans who do have to experience that.
And I didn't have to block Scott's number. I mean, it's just all the Martin Moore was the one that mentioned the altitude advantage that Pope
had.
Martin.
Well, if that happens, and we'll, like this tweet we just showed, we'll roll back and say, hey, Martin was dead on with that.
That's awesome. Good for that person because Brian Etheridge sent me a note. I guess it was on Thursday. Yeah, it would have been sometime on Thursday. And he got into a few people's business about announcing that there was a deal and a press conference and much more. And I just laughed because there are no consequences for being wrong over and over and over again. And then you're right like 3 months later on something.
Our old friend Jason King called out a particular guy the other day.
Oh, he did on the show.
He did.
Jason, I hadn't seen him in a while, and it was good to see him pop in during the Scott Drew stuff because I know he was one of those that people kind of leaned on that thought that Scott would stay at Baylor. And Ashley Hodge did an incredible job with the reporting on Scott Drew. I mean, he was the one that was right there from the very beginning. He thought Scott was going to stay. Now, as the news came and went, like the percentages fluctuated.
Yeah, it went from 90 to about 51.
Yeah, I mean, in the span of like 24 hours. But he always maintained that he thought Scott would stay. And then he did, in fact, when pressure was probably at its highest, he posted, I guess it was late Wednesday night.
It was in the morning, like 2 or 3
early
o'clock
Thursday
in the morning.
it was like late for me. It was late Wednesday night for y'all. It was early Thursday morning. But he posted that in our premium section, and, you still wonder, like, oh, my gosh, what are you going to wake up to? And sure enough, he nailed it. So exciting to see. As I passed by, they're working on the parking garage for the new arena that's very much in the works right now. And Foster looks great, and so excited to see what Scott Drew can continue to build there because he's done a lot, but there's definitely more out there for the taking.
Brad Sham in a few minutes real quickly. The Baylor weekend, the green and gold weekend, as they call it, at McLean Stadium. Also some touring of the new football ops building, the new indoor that's been renovated.
Fudge Football Operations
GXG,
Center.
by the way, can you can still get involved in the tour, the Fudge Operations building, among others. They have what is going to be the green and gold game that's not a game. At noon on Saturday, admission free, gates open at 11 o'clock, parking is free too. But it will be more of what you could call a glorified, larger practice, but won't be specifically any kind of a game. So that was announced today. Some people disappointed in that because they were like, well, wait a minute. Some may not go. I don't know. But I want to pass that along. That's coming up on noon Saturday at McLean Stadium.
Well, this has never been one of those schools capable or really driven to do, like, let's pack, sold-out spring football game. That's not really their tier. So I think the last couple of spring games, some people wish they didn't see because, it kind of busted bubbles or maybe made you think twice about your expectations. So I don't know. I'm glad to just see some football, and it'll come and go, and it'll be your typical kind of event that'll bring spring to a close, and then that's another chapter behind us, so we can just move closer to the actual football to come here in a few months.
The voice of the Cowboys and his thoughts about the great Verne Lundquist, Brad Sham, next on 365 Sports.
It's Dodge Power Shot Days, continuing at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco with some of the hottest deals of the year, starting with the new 2024 Dodge Hornet GT all-wheel drive for $29,999. Or how about the 2023, the new Dodge Charger SXT all-wheel drive for $30,990. And the 2023 Dodge Challenger GT at $31,487. How about the 2023 Dodge Charger SXT for $28,925 during Dodge Power Shot Days? If you like extreme, they've got extreme power with the Demon 170 with over 1,000 horsepower. Pop a wheelie straight from the manufacturer and also run on jet fuel. Allen Samuels has one of those last ones left in the country. Call it the last call model, as Dodge will not build the V8 Hemis in 2024. If you want cutting-edge technology, come by and drive the 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 4xe. Save over $13,000 in values. 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland 4xe and save over $15,000 in values. These two world-class SUVs run on battery or gas with world-class technology. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340, east of 84 in Waco. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, entering the last week of the Jeep Celebration event with unbelievable deals like a 2023 Jeep Compass Trailhawk for $29,990, a 2023 Jeep Renegade. This is at Allen Samuels in Waco for $25,714. How about the most decorated SUV ever, a 2023 Grand Cherokee Summit with over $13,000 off MSRP. That's right, a 2023 Grand Cherokee Summit with over $13,000 off MSRP. The latest addition to the Dodge family, the 2023 Dodge Hornet GT, loaded up $37,525, all prices plus tax, title, and license. Ted Teague, the CEO and general manager, he and his staff put together amazing values along with dealership brands as well. You have an opportunity to get the vehicle you want right now. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com with me, David Smoak. And tell you what, you guys keep rolling along. You do have yet another date, correct, for an online and live auction?
Yes, our next online and live auction will be Thursday, April 25th.
We've discussed how this has been unique and how people have reacted to it. Has that momentum continued as you've done more?
Yes, it's kind of half and half. We'll have a good amount of people there that are from the area, and then we have probably 40% that we ship out. And everybody that I've delivered locally to has talked about how much fun they had, and they want to know when the next one's going to be. We've gotten great feedback from the people that we've shipped to. They're all just so excited about this event, and they can't wait for the next one to happen.
Premium grade East Texas beef. Customers don't have to go out and buy their beef. TexasBeefHouse.com. From their family and their ranch to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
The voice of the Cowboys and one of the great ones, all time, Brad Sham, joins us on 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak, as we come to you the day after Scotty Scheffler wins another green jacket. And they celebrate Verne Lundquist, and Brad Sham, as much as anyone else, can discuss the great Verne Lundquist because he's worked with him before. Brad, thank you very much for your time. I always thought you, Lundquist, among others, less is more, and we seem like we see a lot less of that now in sports broadcasting. Is that what makes him so special?
Well, that I don't think that alone, Smokey, is what made him special, although I absolutely agree. He may be the last great practitioner of it. Pat Summerall, to me, is one of the very best. But just think about his most recent days working the SEC football games, and that less is more. I think that's what television play-by-play is supposed to be. You got a picture. You don't need the play-by-play guy to do much more than drive the bus. You need the analyst to tell you what the heck happened. And he got that more than anyone. But that, to me, is not his greatness. His greatness is that his innate knowledge combined with his preparation made him, more than most, the right man to step up to big moments. That's why I frequently say when asked, I just don't believe in the universe having accidents. And anybody can have a really memorable call fall into their lap. Almost anybody could have two. When you look at the things that and I said this to a newspaper reporter in Dallas last week, when you make a list of the things that he had the opportunity to describe, from Jackie Smith's drop in the end zone on the Cowboys radio network in January of 76 to or 70 no, not 76, 78. From there all the way through Christian Leitner and the stuff that he had at the Winter Olympics in skating and all of the golf moments, which are some of the most famous, of course, and then some of the big SEC moments. When you look at all of those, the only way in my mind that one person gets all of those is that God says there's only one guy I can put in charge of that. And I just don't think it's an accident.
Brad, you've known him for a very long time. What would you say early on when you met him was your process? Did you observe? Do you take notes when you have guys like that, especially as a younger broadcaster? What did you do when around Verne Lundquist and going, oh crap, Pete, that was really good?
Well, Paul, I'll tell you, it's funny. I mean, we met each other in the early 70s, but we started working together in the middle of the 76 football season. And by then, Verne had been on the Cowboy broadcast, 15, 16 years. And I, of course, thought I knew everything about everything. And it took me one game sitting next to him looking at the same field he was looking at, listening to him and not seeing some of the things he was describing. It took me one game to say, you better keep your mouth shut and your ears open and figure out what he's doing and how you can be more like it. To me, some of the greatest mentors, and I think I've had two, Verne and Frank Gleaver. To me, sometimes the best mentors do not intend to mentor you. They don't set out to do that, but they kind of show you the way. And so from the standpoint of what you're asking about, I just sat next to him, listened to what he said, looked at what he was looking at, tried to understand how he worked and how he did what he did. And after a little while, I figured out that some of the things that were his strengths were not my strengths, and I should not try to do those, but I could do the things that I could do more like he did them. And that's really just a question of exposure and experience.
I believe Hansen told me this, but I also saw you mention this, that he did not have notes when he was abroad, when he did Channel 8, that he could do a sportscast basically without anything in front of him.
Never saw him have a note. And I reposted a thing on Twitter X that somebody had put up that was the best example I could ever see, which was of a training camp report in Thousand Oaks the day after the Cowboys traded Dwayne Thomas to the San Diego Chargers for Billy Parks and Mike Montgomery. And Verne is standing out at the side of the practice field in Thousand Oaks, and I'll bet it was a 4-minute report or maybe a 3-minute report, which included his personal observations, which he delineated. He said, "This is what I think," after he told you the hard facts. And there's not a note, and there's not a script. And I'll promise you, in 1970 or whenever that was, 71, that there was no prompter, there was no cue guy, there was Verne and his camera guy. And I never saw him write a script or have a note, but he just was as good as he is now. He's been that good for 50 years.
What do you think yesterday and even the lead up to the last weekend at Augusta meant to him?
Oh, I knew it was going to be emotional for him. I texted him a few weeks ago when the announcement was made that this was going to be it. Now, I knew that was coming because he told me. He told me that he and the CBS executives had, first they windowed him down to the PGA and the Masters, and then eventually it was just the Masters. So they knew it was coming. And I texted him when they made that announcement. And I said, "Are you okay with this?" And he answered me with a list of his physical ailments. He said, "Yeah, it's about time." He said, "I'm 83. I walk with a cane. I've got, a CPAP machine and, partial diabetes. And and that didn't even get into all the back surgeries he's had." So I knew it was coming, and he knew it was coming. He had time to prepare for it. But I also knew, because I know him, how emotional it would be. I think I texted him early in the week of the Masters. Oh, I know it was early in the week of the Masters because he and his wife Nancy had their wedding anniversary Monday or Tuesday. So I texted him happy anniversary, and I said, "I know this is going to be an emotional week for you. Try not to cry." And he almost made it. He almost made it. He got choked up there at the end, and that's just so completely understandable. This is not just a place and an event that has meant so much to him, but more than 50 years in, he's now done. He's retired, and his body, I think, and I believe me, Smokey, I identify with this. His body is saying, "Let's take a break." His mind is saying, "Oh, we've got this. We can do this a while longer." And that is, I think, not just in our business, but the older I get, the more I'm convinced that it is the ultimate, eventual, and unavoidable battle that we all have coming. When it's just time to not do the thing that you most love doing, and it's coming for all of us. So but I know what it meant to him. It meant everything to him. And then you hit that little rush when Jim did that last toss and the last sign off, and that's the last time anyone's going to say on a live event, "Here's Verne Lundquist," and that has to hit you in the face.
If you were having, and I know that obviously he's your friend, so don't let that, if you're going to pick it, but if you were having like a fantasy draft of, man, I need a broadcaster for this event, any event, how high in the draft would he go?
Oh, he'd be, in the top, he'd depend on the event, but he'd certainly be in the top 5, and he might be in the top 3. I mean, Frank Lieber was really, really good at that. And I'm talking about versatility, smoothness, easy to listen to. There's some other guys, like Bob Costas is just an enormously talented guy. And especially if it's baseball, but not exclusively, after a while, you kind of get the feeling, and Bob and I don't hang out, but I've known him for a very long time, and I consider us friendly. And I think after a while, when you listen to Bob, you kind of get the idea that you're being either taught or preached to or spoken to by someone who believes that he is better at this than you. And Verne and Frank were absolutely not that way. Pat Summerall would be very high on the list. And for me, I think Joe Buck would be high on that list, because I don't think Joe talks down to you at all. And he's got a great sense of humor, and he's very versatile and can do a lot of different things. And again, personal friend, so I'm somewhat biased. But Verne would be in the top 3 and maybe the top 5 and maybe in the top 3.
You mentioned versatile. You have done soccer, baseball, the Olympics, and of course you're known.
Smokey, excuse me, I got to interrupt. I did forget Vin Scully.
Who
for me is the all-time best sportscaster, period. He's so well known for doing the Dodgers, people forgot that he did the NFL. He did a lot of different sports, and I've many times said, if you're making a list of the top 25 sportscasters of all time, Vin Scully is 1 through 15. and the next 9 spots are blank. And then everybody else starts fighting for at number 25. That's how good Scully
Brad,
was. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
I can't agree with that more, just because I watched him do a spring training game one time, and I was like, he is talking about a guy whose number is 94 right now, like it's his grandson, and he knows all of these things about him. And I thought, holy cow, this dude's not even going to make the roster. And Vin is talking about him like he's an everyday player with the knowledge of that. It was unreal.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Smoke.
No, that's okay. You mentioned versatility with what all of he did, not just pro football, but also, of course, as you mentioned, all those SEC games and everything else. You have been Major League Baseball, MLS, Major League Soccer, Olympics, the NFL. You did an incredibly popular talk show on KRLD, among other things. How difficult is that when most people are kind of pigeonholed? And I see where John Sterling's about to retire after 50 years or so with the Yankees. It's not easy to have that ability, is it, to be able to do more than one specific type broadcast?
I don't want to come off wrong answering the question, but I think that Verne would tell you the same thing. I think Frank would tell you the same thing. I think Pat would have absolutely told you the same thing. I think Joe would. It's not anything that you think of as difficult. Now, there may be some differences from sport to sport. One might be more difficult than another. Preparation might be completely different. There's challenges to doing an event that almost no one is watching or listening to, that in their own way equals something that the whole world is watching and listening to. But the question about is it difficult to do a bunch of different things? I never found that difficult. I just really enjoyed that. I as you said, I've done a lot of different things, and I always enjoyed every single one of them, even ones that I knew I was terrible at and didn't do very well because I didn't know anything. I did one year about 16 years ago, for a variety of reasons. I wound up doing 7 NASCAR races on DirecTV. Now, what I know about NASCAR, you could get a thimble and fill it up, and you got twice as much as I knew. But it was a challenge. It was new. It was different, and I enjoyed it very much. So I can't say that. I think if you can do it, you can do it, and if you can't, then you find what you can do, and you kind of stick to that.
So can you share the story about bowling for dollars with those who don't know that story about Verne Lundquist?
Well, yeah, and as I said to the newspaper writer, the thing I like best about it is the way he enjoyed telling it. One of the best things about Verne is that he doesn't have pretensions about it. He loves to laugh at himself. So this is how he tells the story. He was at Channel 8 in Dallas, and his goal in life was to be a full-time network television sportscaster. Didn't matter which network, didn't matter doing what. He wanted to be a full-time guy. And en route to that, one year, ABC hired him to do the A&M Texas football game, which was played on Thanksgiving and maybe at night in College Station. So he's driving back with his friend and spotter Joe Cash, who was his spotter on the Cowboy broadcast, and he's wearing his ABC blazer. He's so proud of it. He's not the yellow one with the big ABC patch on the pocket, the breast pocket. He's not taking that off. So they stop in Fairfield for gas. And in those days, of course, any gas station stop was full service. Doesn't matter what time or where you are. So he pulls in, and they're sitting there, and he notices as the guy comes out to wash the windows and check the tires and go around, he notices, and Smokey, you know what this is like, Paul, you do too. When someone's looking at you like they think they know who you are, you can tell. And so this guy's looking at him, and he keeps looking as he's making his way slowly around the car. Now, this does not displease Verne. And so he's sitting there, and the guy comes around, and he's going to come all the way back around to the driver's window. So Verne kind of straightens himself up and pulls that jacket straight and throws that pocket with the ABC patch out on it. What I said to Kevin Sherrington of the Morning News was he was in his full peacockery, and he's sitting up straight and tall, and the guy comes and rolls down the window, and the guy says, "Excuse me, are you who I think you are?" And he can't be prouder. And he very humbly says, "Yes, I am." He's just done his first network television football game. He is flying high. "Yes, I am," he says. And the guy turns around and yells over his shoulder at his partner, "Hey, Rudy, come on out here. It's that bowling for dollars fella."
Oh, my God. Oh.
And what I love about him is that he loves to tell the story. He bursts his own bubble, and he completely understood how to maintain perspective, and maybe that was one of the things that helped him do that.
Brad, it's always great to hear you, man, with what you do, and maybe after the draft we'll fill in some of the holes of the Cowboys. Got a lot of them, right? This is an intriguing lead-up.
Swiss cheese.
Swiss cheese is perfect.
Brad, if you walk around, just tell them trade down, get picks.
Well, okay. Hey, look, they know where the players are. The problem is having the right picks. I'll be interested to see if they trade down. Which is what you just said, because I think they would love to have something in the fourth round, or failing that, an extra one in the third round, and that will depend, Paul, on how things fall with the way their board is set up. But if there's a guy, if they get down there near the bottom and near their pick, and it looks like they think, based on their intelligence, that a guy who they kind of like at 24 might be there at 33, then that's when you do that, because someone's going to want to come up and get something that's there. So I'm with you. That a lot of times I don't like to do that, especially now when you have a first round pick. You've got him for 5 years, but their needs are so plentiful that this year I'm with you. I'd be in favor of that if the deal is right. You don't do it just to do it, but if the deal is right.
Thank you, Brad. We appreciate it. Hall of Famer and Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys, with us, reflecting on the career and how he started working, what those days were like with Verne Lundquist, who yesterday did his last 40th appearance as a broadcaster at Augusta National.
One of the stars of the greatest golf movie ever made, Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, absolutely. Hey, I got a note here. We'll take a break, and we'll have, again, RotoWire with Ryan Andrade coming up to join us on the Masters in college basketball. Torian York from Temple High School, who was committed to Baylor, has just been named one of the 2 new captains of Texas A&M University football.
They're not letting him. Like when you said that, I was like, "Are you kidding me? He's really going to get no." They've had too many, but yeah, I'm not surprised. He had such a fantastic freshman year. He was so damn good for them, and he was in a season that was full of this is all like it was gut-wrenching to watch A&M last year, because you saw this battle of wills going on from the coaches, and it was hard to watch. But when Torian York was out there, he's like, "No, I got it. I'll rip it up."
Yeah, I don't know that we need to continuously remind Baylor fans that he was a former commit, because he never enrolled, and that was one that they probably wish never had gotten away, especially not only his ability to play as a true freshman in the SEC on defense right away, but to become a team captain by your second year, and be for all intents and purposes, like a partial team captain last year, just based on the way he was talked about and how quickly he learned things and how much of a teacher he was for other guys and how much work he put in. He really is, and this isn't hyperbole, he is one of the most impressive high school recruits I've ever talked to, as far as just like his focus and being basically an adult in an 18-year-old body. Yep. And most of his friends are worried about where they're partying next, or what this or what that, who they're dating. I'm sure he's got some of that, and I don't know where he finds time for it, though, because he is so locked on football and being better and being the best and being the most knowledgeable and the hardest working. And yeah, a lot of guys talk the talk, but Torian York walks the walk. And for him to roll in last year and play right away and then be a captain at this point is really impressive. He's one of those two, like you hear this all the time, but it is true with him, of whatever happens with football, when that's over, whether by his choice or, just the career runs out, whatever it may be, he's going to be just fine. He's going to be just fine doing whatever it is he elects to do, because he's just got leadership, in his veins and hard work in his veins. And so, yeah, not surprised in the slightest that he has been named a team captain, which is even more impressive when you think that it's a new coach. Like Mike Elko's rolling in, and here's one of the first big, things that honors that he's put on a guy. So very, very cool for Torian York.
All right.
One note, because I know we're probably not going to get to it since
we got one more guest.
Since we're going to have a guest and then probably roll into top 5. Did y'all happen to see the finish to UFC 300, Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje this past weekend?
Yeah.
Damn, I
just wanted to mention it. It was just the roar of the crowd gives me goosebumps right now. It was just so electric and amazing, and that was their big 300 show. But the finish, at the very end of the fight, Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje that was incredible sport.
Did they just beat the hell out of each other? Is that what it was?
Well, Max Holloway he had won the fight. He had won multiple rounds, if not all 4 rounds, and they get into the final 10 seconds of the fight, and he's won it. Like all he has to do is just stay on his feet, and they're fighting for the BMF title, which stands for Bad Mother, what.
Yep.
And it's kind of
I don't.
Yeah. Well, we're on the internet. I'll say now it's kind of a novelty title in some ways, but its purpose is to be just kind of a specialty belt. And when you get 2 people who just really are great fighters who are going to go in there and they're going to scrap to be the BMF, like the Nate Diaz's of the world, that's what it was created for. So Max Holloway's got this fight won, and he just 10 seconds left, he tells Gaethje, let's get in the middle and just throw punches.
Beat the hell out of each other.
And they start swinging, and he knocks Gaethje out with 1 second to go, and the crowd lost its ever-loving. It's one of the best roars of a crowd I've ever heard. It was insane. I don't know who else out there saw that, but that was chef's kiss for UFC 300 this past weekend.
Speaking of Nate Diaz, did I see that he and McGregor are going to have a fight later on this year?
No, McGregor's got another fight that they announced coming up here. Okay, yeah, he's coming back, but it's not against Diaz.
Katie Rader said, hey, guys, might want to mention the Texas Tech spring game is in Midland this weekend. Of course, if you've not seen some of the new pictures of what they have in Lubbock, their football stadium, AT&T Jones Stadium is gorgeous. Midland, Saturday, 1 o'clock on ESPN+. We'll have a list of all that for the rest of the week, with some games already have been played. All right, when we come back, we're going to kind of look back at the Masters one more time, plus some other notes when it comes to college basketball. Ryan Andrade, RotoWire, Paul's Top 5 around the corner. Thank you as always. Hey, please, if you don't mind, hit the like and subscribe button and tell somebody about what we do. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for all of your automotive needs here in the Central Texas area, and I have counted on Richard Carr on multiple occasions myself. I had some body work needed to get done. They're the go-to. If you're looking to buy a vehicle, they're the go-to. If you're looking to buy new or pre-owned, they're the go-to. If you're looking to just get your car fixed up, oil change, they're the go-to. And right now, they are celebrating yet another unique month. Last month, there's all about the madness of March, right? Well, this month, even though it's come and gone, it's Eclipse Month. So just as the eclipse last week is a rarely seen event, you get rarely seen savings all month long during the Eclipse sales event right now at Richard Carr, which means saving thousands on a GMC Sierra ATX 4x4 Sierra model vehicle. Qualified buyers can also get 1.9% financing for 72 months. And as always, military and first responders can also save an additional $500 as well. So right now, save thousands on a GMC Sierra ATX 4x4 Sierra. If you're looking to go more of the pre-owned route, you're not looking to buy brand new, they've got a lot loaded with over 90 highly inspected used cars and trucks, and 100% credit approval is also one of their commandments, so to speak. They're always all about the 100% credit approval. That's always one of their goals, as they want to say yes and typically say yes when others say no. So whether you're looking for a used car, 90 highly inspected, good to go, hit the road, peace of mind and comfort right now in the used selection. Or if you're looking to check out, for example, the GMC Sierra 4x4 Sierra model over at Richard Carr right now. They've been in business for 25 years and have built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs throughout those 2+ decades. So log on to richardcarr.com right now. Call or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marcos Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marcos Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marcos Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Hey, by the way, Wednesday, SMU football coach Rhett Lashley will join us, as we will bring numerous college football coaches, including today with Matt Rhule from earlier, among others, over the next few days until even after. Some have wrapped up spring drills or spring practices, spring game, and some have done that around the country. Ryan Andrade, the RotoWire, joins us on 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and we appreciate it. Ryan, thanks for being a part of the show. Paul raved about your segment at the end of last week. Wanted to get you on again now post-Masters. Scotty Scheffler, had it not been for a missed 6-foot putt at the Houston Open, he'd be on a stretch of maybe 4 in a row. We haven't seen something like this, since Tiger?
Yeah, it's been crazy to see. I mean, honestly, you go back to really the start of 2022, and even before that, 2021, he was lurking there at a couple big events, but never could break through. And then he won 3 events leading up to the Masters in 22, won the Masters, and it's just like it hasn't stopped. I mean, the level of ball striking that he has displayed over these last 2.5 years has been just, if you really want to dive into some of the numbers, he is just, it's incredible to watch this guy. And, it's really just from a tee to green standpoint. He is probably the closest thing we've seen to Tiger, just from a ball striking standpoint.
Maybe not the flair, completely the opposite of that, but he just goes about his business. And he's had to deal a little bit with a shaky putter and still just kind of got through that. And such a popular win, a popular champion for the game of golf.
Absolutely, yeah. It's. We've seen a lot of, young players come in, and it's sort of those, we saw it with Spieth when he was young, and he had a run there for a few years where it's just like everything went right. And Rory from 2011 to 2014, just everything was going right. Scotty, it's weird. He ascended all the way to number 1. He won, the Masters, and then pretty much all of last year, the discussion has just been, you just can't make putts. It doesn't matter how good you hit it if you can't get in the hole. And that's what he was struggling with for the longest time. And, it's funny, actually, in an event in LA, actually, the Genesis, Rory came on television for CBS, and he was calling a few holes, and he suggested that Scotty switch to the mallet style putter. And sure enough, next week out, Scotty does it. He wins the Arnold Palmer Invitational, then great final round to win the Players, and now he's just won the Masters. So Rory's probably kicking himself thinking that he gave him that suggestion, and has it paid off for him.
What is going on with Jordan Spieth?
Yeah, it's it's a conundrum. It really is. He had a couple good starts earlier this season. He was T3 in Maui. It sort of like went downhill when he signed an incorrect scorecard in LA, which you see those maybe once every couple years, and he got DQ'd for it. And since then, he's made one of 4 cuts, including the Masters. And it's honestly, it's the part of his game that I think nobody would really expect. He's been very inconsistent with his wedges, short game. I mean, that's really always been sort of the hallmark of his game, is just how good his touches around the greens, how good his distance control is. And that the last several starts he's made, it's just been off. And, it's people have been calling for a reset with Spieth for a while. He's worked with Cameron McCormick ever since he was a youngster growing up. And there's lots of people that think, you're not succeeding at the same rate that you were the first couple of years that you were on tour. Like, we got to change something up here. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. But I feel like he's just kind of got to look in the mirror and say, we can't keep doing the same thing. We got to change some things up.
Ryan, with 2 players that have been as ardent about the PGA Tour versus LIV, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, of course, John Rahm was too, and we now know where he is. There's a report about LIV making almost $1 trillion offer, $1 billion offer, to you have to go then, right? It's trillion compared $1 billion offer to Rory. Do you feel like those two? And Rory's played well. He's won, but he hasn't played that well consistently. Do you think those two have been bothered by all of what happened with LIV, and then all of a sudden having the rug taken out from under them late last year with the commissioner?
Yeah, I don't know if there's been one player that's been affected more by all of this. And I mean, a lot of it is largely his own doing, right? Like, he's always been one of the most outspoken, honest people that you can interview, and which is great, obviously, because we get to know exactly how he feels. But you could tell, the last year or so, like, it's definitely been wearing on him, because he's been in charge of all these meetings with both sides of it. Him and Tiger have been largely leading the charge in all of this. They really deeply care about the PGA Tour, and they care about what is actually good for the game of golf. And that's taken so much energy and focus from him away from the golf course. And, we're sitting here, a decade out from Rory's last major win, which, I mean, when he won the 2014 PGA, it was the second straight at the time. And that was 4, I believe, at the age of 24 or 25. And here we are now. He's 34 and he's still sitting on 4. And you got guys like Brooks Koepka who have won 5 in that time span, and others. So yeah, I mean, he dropped off the policy board, and he was replaced by Jordan Spieth. So I think that sort of has taken a little bit of a sting out for Rory, but man, I mean, it's just there. Golf is really a mess right now. And until they can get the two sides to sort of agree and come together, it's just the only people really losing is the fans, is us. The Masters and all the other majors are the only really time that we get to see truly all the best players in the world compete at the same time. And that's a little bit sad, quite honestly.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, Ryan. Who were you surprised the most that did not make the cut or had a rough tournament?
Yeah, he made the cut, but he was never a factor. It was Brooks Koepka, and I'm not sure he even cracked the top 20 at any point in the tournament, which is just, I mean, it seems like the last 5-6 years you turn on a major and Brooks Koepka is somewhere near the top of the leaderboard whenever you tune in. And, I think a lot of it is that, even last year there was a lot of talk, how are these LIV guys going to do coming in? They play 54 holes, they have guaranteed money. Do they really care about what they do? How competitive actually is that tour? And, Brooks came out at the Masters and led for 3 rounds and then, fell to John Rahm, obviously, and then came out the next major and won the PGA. So it was just shocking knowing that, you know, Brooks, even when he was on the PGA Tour, he could finish T55, T62 for a couple weeks in a row coming in a major and still show up. And it was just sort of weird to just see. He just wasn't even in the picture, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. With Rahm, he's the most recent big name that moved to LIV. If, in fact, the report is true, and if, in fact, Rory was to move, would that put even more emphasis on those two tours coming together?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big if, right? Yeah. I mean, there's been several reports like this to come out of different places of different players getting X amount of dollars rumored to be there. I mean, Rory would, just because, as I was saying earlier, you know, how outspoken he's been during this whole situation and how much he dislikes LIV. At least that's what he said. You know, but I think to some degree he's sort of seeing that, you know, he's seen the success of some of the LIV guys, you know, in some of the majors. You know, they're playing less golf. They're not getting stretched out all over the place. You know, and they can just come in and they can really focus for 4 tournaments a year. And on the PGA Tour, it's a lot more of a grind, quite honestly. You know, it's you don't have guaranteed money. You know, there's a lot of other big time events that, you know, you're expected to play well in. And listen, I mean, if he did end up going to LIV, I mean, everything would come almost crashing down, I think. And I think it would really sort of accelerate even the talks even more to try to get some sort of agreement between the two sides, because I mean, it's not sustainable really at the point we're at now, to where you have just two different sides, two different tours that are so fundamentally different. And you know, you got all these people that want to invest money in, but you know, the viewership's going down because, you know, you don't have all these players together at the same time. So, I mean, we'll see, obviously, but I'm hoping that, you know, they can come to an agreement on something before anything like that has to take place. And then you sort of get into the question of how are we going to allow the guys that took the money to come back and play on the PGA Tour? And so there's still a lot of things to be answered.
What do you think will be more likely, that those who took the money and left will be penalized in some way, and those who did not take the money, and we don't know who all of them are, but I'm sure most of the bigger names that they were at least contacted via third source or even directly, would get some sort of slush fund? Yeah, and I think that's been a big question. I hope that is not the biggest holdup for this thing, right? I think you know, if they can get the two sides to sort of agree to something, I think they can sort of figure out, you know, the intricacies of dollars here, dollars there, suspensions, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest frustration for all the guys that are on the PGA Tour, right? Is like, they're like, hey, like, we were loyal. We stayed here. We didn't take this guaranteed money to go play over here. And you're just going to let these guys come back for, you know, with no penalty at all, and just tee it up the next week at, you know, we're going to the RBC Heritage this week, just come in and tee it up with us. You know, I think there would be I think that would cause a lot of friction. So I don't know exactly how they would do it. I would guess that there would have to be some sort of system put in place to where these guys would all have to sort of re-earn their tour cards. And, you know, that's a whole process in and of itself before you can start getting into better fields and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's unfortunate we're in this spot, and we've been having to talk about this for so long, and it's just kind of taking the focus off of what's truly great about golf, which is, you know, the on-course stuff, you know, watching a great final round like we did at the Masters. So hopefully we can get this resolved before too long. Ryan Andrade with RotoWire with us, and hopefully consistent opportunities for us to have him join us on the show.
Yeah, Ryan's the man, and look, he's a Kansas fan, so I can call him and have him help me walk through the thing. I need a village.
Yeah, you need some canvas. You need some posse out of KU.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do. but you still have the chief Indian
Yeah.
that runs that entire. Ryan, thank you. Great stuff. Appreciate it. Coming off the Masters, Scotty Scheffler winning twice. I saw a video. Paul's top 5 in a second. I saw a video, and I believe it was actually from overseas, but it was the driving range this morning around the world after watching Scotty Scheffler win again. And it was amateurs on the course on the range trying to hit a golf ball while sliding their feet during the swing like he does. And some were tripping, some were completely missing the ball, but they were having at least fun trying to mimic, in a way, what is the very unique swing of the great Scotty Scheffler. Paul Catalina and the top 5.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 thoughts on the spring transfer portal, and we went through some of this earlier, but wanted to kind of put a bow on it here as we're about to, see
mass chaos,
some madness, I would think, out of this. Number 5, will Dabo come alive? They have a lot of needs, particularly the offensive line, running back. They're good at linebacker, but they could always use something. And then if you look at what Miami and Florida State and what North Carolina are doing, who are the other, what Louisville, dear God, what Louisville's doing, and you're just going to sit there and wait for your guys to develop. I mean, he'll coach them up well, but I just think that they're going to run into some depth problems overall, because sometimes it's not about it's not. Most of the time, it's not just about your front line of talent. And what Clemson used to be able to do was, all right, even if you've got a freshman who's not ready, they were coached so well that when they had injuries, that happened, but they've lost guys and not replaced them, and that to me is an issue.
I wonder how many of the top-level schools who even can get whoever they want for pretty much whatever they need will start to have at least some cracks in their depth. Because playing time and the money, obviously the money's huge, but I wonder how many of the bigger schools will have issues. Will they be hurt at all with depth?
I guess it depends on what happened. Does a team have like 4 wide receivers transfer out? It's kind of hard to know without being boots on ground in some places where something's expected. But yeah, there's definitely, you lose a quarterback, next thing you know, you've got the quarterback that you liked, and then maybe a young guy, and then all of a sudden you're looking for a spare part, basically, lack of a better term, and in the post-portal period or in the post-spring period to try and just get your depth back. So I think rooms can not be depleted, but they can definitely get wrecked by just a single guy in some cases leaving because you were counting on them to be a part of what you were doing or at least be quality depth. So, yeah, but with Dabo, probably not based on history, based on the current language that's still out there in regards to him in the transfer portal. I know Max Olson in a recent article had him in the category of a portal denier, I think is how he phrased it, which almost sounds like really bad. But
he almost needs an intervention.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to do anything because everybody's already told him he's not doing the portal the right way. They've already tried to intervene and tell him that he's not doing it correctly, but he's doing it his way, the Clemson way, and, for better or worse. Let's not act like they only won like 7 games last year. They were still fine, but is it going to catch up to him, or is it going to prevent Clemson from being the top shelf that they were here recently on more than one occasion? Yeah, possibly. And, how does that play long-term, short-term? I don't know. But, yeah, I don't expect Dabo to go crazy, but will he at least evolve a little bit? I guess that's the question.
I got a feeling he'll do. I think, listen, even if you think you have it not made, but when you think you have it all solved, you never do. And I even think there'll be enough people that can kind of, no matter if you think he's stubborn or just doesn't want to do it, I think eventually there's too much pressure to win there, even though he's won a lot. And I think he'll probably maybe just change his mind a little bit. It's not going to be like all of a sudden there's 12 new players at Clemson because of the transfer portal.
No, but we'll see. I'm curious if what he does long term. But there's a chance
if he hits 3 people that can
Well,
play
there'll be
at Clemson.
3 more than he's ever gotten.
say he's gonna have to get
exactly
3
right.
people.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know.
Maybe he needs to gain somebody who makes a huge difference, even though who he has might have done it, but then he all of a sudden go, okay, that's how it works.
Number 4. Who will the surprise aggressive team be? We've heard Mississippi State. I wouldn't be surprised to see Oklahoma listed here by Emory. He thought they would be aggressive, but who's going to come out of nowhere? Because there's always a team in the portal that you're not thinking about at all. Because you're like, oh, this team's got to do this, and this team's got to do, and they've got to go get this guy. And then out of nowhere, there's somebody that's like, yeah, we're going to sign these 5 guys.
You think SMU might be one?
Maybe. I mean, yeah.
I mean, anybody you want to be can be one.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just saying. I wonder if that might be one last week again. Wednesday.
Basically, I think this is a better question. Who we aren't thinking about.
Yeah, I get it.
That's going to just,
like Minnesota or someone like that.
Yeah. And I don't know who would be primed up for that. I will say too, though, and this is not necessarily in Dabo's defense, because I don't think you don't use it at all. But I mean, on average now, I mean, there's teams taking 10 to 15 guys, and is that really making the biggest world of difference for them? Are they hitting on 10 of the 15? Are they hitting on 6 of the 10? I don't know, man. Like, I know Baylor's not the shining example of it, but, man, they've brought in about 40 guys, and maybe about 6 of them have made a legit major difference. I mean, is that fair?
Well, Texas State and Colorado, I think, were the 2 teams that brought in more people last year. I think they were. Texas State was okay under G.J. Kenny's first year, and Colorado was good for a month.
Texas State was definitely much more improved and exciting, and spawned hope that hasn't been there in a while, just in terms of like, whoa, where could this go potentially?
But I do think that and part of it is there's coaches who have figured it out a little bit better for what they need of, a lot of times I think if you should have some transfers that you expect to come in and start. Yeah. But you should also have a lot that you're just bringing in to compete because you like what their skill set is, and then you coach them up. Yeah. Those are the ones that but that's what if you go get a quarterback, like Cam Ward, DJU, Will Howard, you're expecting those guys to start. But if you get a guy who just went through his freshman year at Georgia and he's transferred out, you're hoping he starts. You probably think he's going to start at your program, but you also know that, there's a reason he's not starting at Georgia. Well, we want this athlete here, but I think that's the one. But when you have to add starters, that's where you get in a pickle.
Yeah, I just think there's got to be a middle ground of because there's teams that are getting 10 guys every single year, and I just don't know how that's really, that much better than just not doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like I think there's a middle ground to be met there. So yeah, you don't want to do it Dabo style and not really mess with it whatsoever, but I also don't think that you should be relying on getting double-digit players every single year through the transfer portal, because I think that speaks to something that's a bigger problem than just plugging depth holes and needing a couple of starters.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, is Auburn going to do anything of note? They might be the team that comes out of nowhere. They've been very quiet in the way that Gus is building the roster. Not that he hasn't added transfers, but he hasn't really – he's made some really, Cam Coleman that he signed this year, a 5-star wide receiver. He's made more big-time high school signings, but I'm just waiting for the moment where Hugh kind of busts on the scene of, oh, no, I went and got this guy.
Who's that head coach?
Hugh Freeze.
That's Gus Malzahn.
That's Gus Malzahn.
That's Gus.
Oh. That is Gus.
Listen, I don't always notice a lot. I don't. But I was like, was there a story that I missed?
Well,
did you mean to say UCF?
Yeah, no. It is. I'm
sorry, Emory.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm hard to work for.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm glad you called him out.
He's been perfect until then.
Hey, give me one of those gloves back. No. You get it back when you're good.
Yeah.
No. But what? Are they going to do anything? Where is Hugh Freeze gonna pop out here? I'm just waiting. They might be that team that I might have answered my last question, but again, with not a lot of quarterbacks probably going to move, that would be their biggest need. But I still am waiting for them to go and poach somebody that from somebody that's like, oh, this guy's definitely going to Georgia, and then he's like, no, he's going to Auburn.
Hey, they've been a lot better than a lot of times we realize, and especially they give Alabama hell. That's a great rivalry. Malzahn did, among others, and I think Hugh Freeze is going to be just fine there, and they kind of see a little crack in the window if they needed one or not because of the change in leadership in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. Number 2, Washington has the most needs.
There
You
you
went
go.
through it earlier. They have 3 starters back, all on defense. All 11 starters on offense are gone. A bunch of the backups are gone too. People have transferred out. It's a it's a blank slate for Jedd Fisch. The one thing he has going for him is that Washington rebuilt a roster really quickly between Jimmy Lake and Kalen DeBoer. So it's shown possible to do it. So if you can go do that, then knock yourself out. But it's going to be tough because they've got to fill a lot of needs. But moving into the Big Ten, they've got some more cachet now coming off the national title. They should be able to do fine, and they've already added some good parts. But especially since all this happened so fast, and they were the most affected by the Nick Saban hiring in the NFL draft and, graduation, those 3 things all hit them at once.
Oh, I'm going to feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I know, but
they were really fun to watch.
There you go. They've got a lot to make up for.
What Washington's dealing with now, again, I understand the coaching transition, all that, is what a lot of blue bloods have to do every year. And in this case, it's even more severe because of the transfer portal, coaching change, et cetera. And it makes you even appreciate what Nick Saban did for so long at Alabama.
Yeah, I think they've, hit a weird crossroads where a lot of things converged at once, but I'm not going to feel sorry for them because of the season they just had. And just asterisk, national title, ... appearance, not national title championship or win. But, yeah, they knocked on that door. And, part of the reason why they did was because they had a lot of players that were, preparing to move on to the next level, as we'll see here in the next few days of the NFL draft. A number of Huskies getting their names called. But, yeah, the coaching change was a double whammy. It would have been interesting to see how they would have followed that up if DeBoer had stuck around, like how they would have chosen to build off of that. But I think they made a respectable to really good hire in Jedd Fisch. And if anything, if you're a Washington fan, thank God for the portal. What would you be, I guess you wouldn't be able to replace as much, but the fact that you have a new coach and a new era and a whole new thing starting up, as much as it's taken away, it's also got the potential to really give back in a big way as well. So I think for Washington fans, you've got a stressful situation given that things were so great and then just poof like that, they were gone. But in this era, with the Big Ten backing and the money that's going to come with that, they may not reach those heights right away again, but I do think there's the potential that's still going to be there for them to be very, very good.
All right, so the last 2 teams that lost in the national championship game, we know what happened to TCU. Mm-hmm. And Washington.
What happened to TCU?
They got. They did not. They had a lot of good players leave, and here's Washington, where they are in a different way.
And number 1. Michigan might need a quarterback. Alex Orji is the one that they want to play, and he's super athletic. You saw a little bit of him last year in some specialty sets for the Wolverines, but if that might be the one that makes some interesting things happen. If quarterbacks might pop their head out like a meerkat and go up, Michigan, all right, defending national champs, okay, but. They've got a lot coming back. They've got a lot coming back. They're going to have 17 guys drafted. Michigan, again, probably as decimated as Washington. It just they're not starting from total scratch because they retained a lot because of Sharon Moore being there. But 17 guys about to get drafted probably from Michigan. So, and the biggest thing they'll need to do is replace a quarterback.
How many were drafted off 01 Miami? And Alabama's had a couple of those,
but not they weren't in one draft. Michigan has a chance to hit the record in one draft with 17 guys that might get drafted.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, Paul, thank you very much. Of course, TexasBeefHouse.com, thinking about the Duvall family just outside of Tyler with their upcoming live and also in-person auction coming up in 10 days on April the 25th, what you can do to get the kind of beef you want from farm-raised Wagyu cattle and beef at TexasBeefHouse.com. All right, Garrett Ross, thank you, sir. What is that you're wearing?
Houston Rockets today.
Doesn't even look anything like
It's like the old school with when Charles Barkley lived, like 94.
Logo,
yeah, those kind of baby blue like the Oilers. Emery Winter, thank you so much, very much. Also, Jack McKenzie dialing up. He's back there looking at all the great pictures and stuff he takes to cover everything Baylor. Caddy Daddy, thank you very much for the new golf gloves. These are absolutely awesome. I showed them on the air earlier and on set. We'll continue to talk about them. Paul, great job getting them on the air. Caddy Daddy with their Claw Pro golf gloves. They are
$24.99.
special. $24.99. Clawglove.com or go to Caddy Daddy.
The link was in the chat earlier as well.
Again, thanks to 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. Thanks to Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Our sponsors and you, have a great night. This is 365 Sports, and good night.